Loading the scanned image of the Form 34 is so far 99.94 forms have been loaded. That is 46,201 out of the 46,229. So I would say the process here at the Bomas of Kenya quite slow. When the IEBC chairman addressed those who are here, he indicated that there were about 80 returning officers who are here waiting for the results that they have come with. The Form 34As and 434Bs to be verified here. Initially, when the IEBC set up in readiness for those returning officers, there were only 5 tables here. Right now, there are 8, and Wafula Chebukati had indicated that they were going to increase those tables by tomorrow.
We continue following up on the developments from Bomas of Kenya. We'll be bringing you that in a subsequent news bulletin. But now, a presiding officer from one of the polling stations in Standard constituency has been whisked away by police from angry youth at the Jamhuri Tallying Center. The Independent Election Boundaries Commission official was allegedly found with unmarked booklet of election papers in his bag while gaining access to the center that was heavily guarded by GSU officers. Confirming the incident, Central Police boss Fred Abuga said officers had to rescue the presiding officer from the wrath of supporters of one of the candidates in the Starehe parliamentary race who were baying for his blood. Azimio affiliated leaders were at the Central Police station where the suspect had been taken and had this to say.
All these ballot papers for Starehe constituency.
We actually also called the police and we said we were worried about the police officers who seem to be compromised. So everything that is happening now, it is not that we do not follow procedure. We followed all procedure that IEBC has laid out. But unfortunately, even with giving them that indication that something is going on, it has taken our own supporters to find these materials and to actually force these suspects to be brought here.
These papers that have been brought here are not papers only for senator or governor. It's papers for presidential election, Senate election, senatorial, gubernatorial, MCA, and women rep, and member of parliament for Starehe. Now, this dents the credibility of this election. Because if ballot papers can be carried in a bag, in a rucksack, and somebody walks around with them here in town for 2 good days, it is shocking. What kind of election is this that somebody is trying to do? How did this person access these ballot papers? You remember the way ballot papers arrived in this country? Zilikuja kwa njia ya utatanishi at the airport. Some commissioners even say they're not aware of the arrival of the ballot papers. Now somebody is working with them in town here in Nairobi. This must be happening in all parts of the country. Because if somebody could access ballot papers, documents like ballot papers in Nairobi, well, what stops him from accessing in a rural place where there is no police, even proper security?
And lawyers representing Kimilili MP-elect Didmus Barasa filed a petition seeking to compel the court to grant the embattled legislator bail pending his arrest. In a letter dated August 11th, Hamino and Hamino advocates informed the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Director of Criminal Investigations and Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutimbai of the said development. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
You've had the luxury of living for 50 years and you cannot still explain yourself. Surely. Oh my God.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
Since about shipping up.
You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man.
Emmanuel Talabu used to tell us a story of the way in school.
and then been told to write composition about a sheep. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the sheep or a sheep?
Good morning and welcome to Friday. What does it look like we have on these Nairobi streets? It doesn't look like anything is shaping up to be crazy, at least not yet. Talk about the Southern Bypass, which has not seen any action in the last week or so. Coming into the CBD, a little bit of action here and there, coming out of Kamkunji on Haile Selassie Avenue. But again, it's nothing to worry about. Jago Road looks really good, coming off the Thika Superhighway as well. That is really quick movement. We're going to look at Gong Road, which of course doesn't have anything there at all. Looks like it's going to be yet another day of great traffic where you can be in and out in a very short time. Let's talk, guys, and see how the morning pans out to be. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there and let's keep things moving this Friday.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's Friday and
This
everybody's still
is
waiting
the
with bated
Situation
breath
Room,
in terms of what's
the
happening,
only
isn't
way
it?
to start
It's the
your
12th
day.
of August and it's, 3 days after you cast your vote. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, can anybody be a little bit more excited than me today? It's the end of the week. Not possible. It's the end of the week and here we are. How you doing? Karibu sana. At about 10 minutes after 6 o'clock, the day has begun and we are here. Are we not here? CT, good morning.
We are definitely here, and a good morning to you.
How you doing?
I am well, thank you.
Huh?
Dear.
CT, day 2 of going to the barber and nothing happened. Why is this?
Because people prefer to discuss politics rather than do whatever it is that
Took them to the barber to do.
Yes, but I took the view that all this will come to an end next week, so I'll go back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody's still waiting around, sitting around, waiting, hoping. We've seen quite a number in terms of developments over the last 24 hours. Things have happened. People have won, of course, and that being the case, others have lost just because of, the nature of things. And we're here to look at what's happening through the day, hour by hour, of the developments that are happening in terms of the elections. There have been security questions, there have been timing questions. When is this all going to come to a head? So we'll be looking at that through the show this morning, as well as a couple of other things that affect us here and there. But before we do that, let's say good morning to Eric Latif.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You are? Yes, you are.
Yes. City, what kind of, ordinarily, what do they talk about at your barber shop?
Ordinarily, the discussions are varied. One group is discussing something to do with the work they do on a daily basis. Some are talking to the clients they have. Others are sitting there watching TV. I can't recall which station this is they watch. And the guy who cuts my hair is busy telling me the stories of his day. Yesterday, the day before, different story. Everybody's discussing politics.
City's gone to the barbershop 2 days in immediate succession and has not been able to have his hair cut.
Yeah, it's not that they were not willing to cut my hair.
I think the challenge is City.
As in the challenge is CT Mwenye, right?
Yes. City can't sit still. Because those guys at the barber shop, you think they're going home without having cut anyone's hair? No. They report to work.
They
They are doing what they normally do on a daily basis. They are always cooling stories.
Are you? I mean, you do recall that I work here with you.
As in we're actually in the same room.
Yes, and that we do the same thing, and that we talk the whole morning. So when I leave here, I really don't actually want to talk, not much.
So how would you walk into a barber shop, find people doing what they normally do, which is talk?
By the way, I didn't even get in. That was the point. They were outside.
So they were not even coming into...
No, outside. They were talking outside.
No customer at all?
No, there were no customers.
In the time that you were there?
There were no customers. And they were telling me there are no customers, and they're very upset. And I was a customer.
And they're telling you there are no customers.
And you're a customer. So they knew. They knew you didn't come there to cut your hair. They knew you came to give that story.
That's the thing.
I mean, I think they got the impression that I normally come there to visit them.
Hey, God.
They think that you're one of them. You know, it's just one of these guys who come here. This is, I'm a Kuja center.
Squad.
Wacha tupige story na huyu brother. Tuangalie weather inaendeleaje.
Chambue maneno hapa na pale. 1 2 1 2.
By Monday, you just make sure you have done that. By Monday, don't worry. This story will be finished.
What often happens with these things?
Just go today, grab your guy,
I'll
get into the shop.
I have 2 barber places. There's another one I'll go to. They don't have a very big screen, so people don't get distracted.
Go sit them down and tell them, okay, Sasa, let's do this business for a while, and then we go back now to Endelena story. Because you have more days, Bwana.
But the levels of anxiety, my friend, you're standing there chatting with these guys, other people who seem to be passing by stop and also join. Before you know it, you have a crowd. And everyone is talking and everyone has an opinion.
Everywhere. Anyway, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody. We will be looking at the election itself, looking at the events around the country, looking at the big winners, the big losers of the country. Looking forward into a new government. What is it that we expect of the new governments? The one national government and the 47 county governments. We have very many new governors coming in. Huh? Quite a number of new governors. Looking at those that are replacing the 2-term governors, and then looking at those that are replacing the single-term governors who have lost in their bid for re-election. That is a conversation that we're going to have today. Meanwhile, how are we looking in terms of COVID?
All right, let's look at global numbers. 593,104,840. If we look at what the Ministry of Health reported over the last 24 hours, 18 new cases from a small sample size of 724, then gives Kenya a positivity rate today of 2.5%. And we have seen that COVID is still affecting people here and there. There have been 17 recoveries and another day of 0 reported deaths. If we look at stories coming in from around the world, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, have now ended social distancing and contact quarantining COVID recommendations. This is in the US, all right? We're not sure if Africa CDC is mirroring the same, but they're saying a change in guidelines comes as an estimated 95% of Americans aged 16 and older have acquired some level of immunity. The nation's top health agency Thursday relaxed its COVID-19 guidelines, dropping the recommendation that Americans quarantine themselves if they come close to an infected person. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also said people no longer need to stay at least 6 feet away from each other. I don't know that they were doing that for the last 2.5 years, but all right.
Was Biden doing that?
Well, c'est la question, no? The changes are driven by a recognition that more than 2.5 years since the start of the pandemic, an estimated 95% of Americans aged 16 and older have acquired some level of immunity. So they're saying, all right, since you've got this thing, it's passed through you, then all right, you can handle it should it come. And so they're saying that this has happened either from being vaccinated or being infected. So the current conditions of this pandemic are different from those of the last 2 years, according to Greta Massetti, who is the author of the CDC's guidelines. And she says the recommendations apply to everyone in the US, but the changes could be particularly important for schools, which resumed classes this month in many parts of the country. Perhaps the biggest education-related challenge is the end of the recommendation that schools do routine daily testing, although that practice can be reinstated in certain situations, such as a surge in infections. So they've also said they've dropped the test to stay, which said students exposed to COVID-19 could regularly test instead of quarantining at home to keep attending school. So with no quarantine recommendation, the testing option has disappeared as well. So we're seeing that when the CDCs are saying this, it's likely to be that their partner organizations on other continents will also come out and say the same.
Same.
Right?
Okay. 17 after 6. Are you online? We are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube and our website as well. Do the thing. Let's find out where you are tuned in from this morning. Tell us how you woke up, whether your candidate has won or lost. Let's know who's your... Okay, well, for very many areas, we don't know the governor yet. It hasn't been formally announced. But yeah, your member of parliament, your MCA, how's that race shaping up in your area? Let's find out shortly after we take a look at the weather forecast.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. Well, Jeshi la Wokovu.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Rain showers this morning in Nairobi at 14. We'll see highs of 21 and lows of 14. It's cloudy at 14 as well in Nakuru, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 22 in a cloudy Eldoret, currently at 12. It's 11 degrees and rain showers in Nyeri, highs of 17. Looking into Mombasa, the rain is coming down as well at 20, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 27 in a rainy Malindi this morning at 23. 19 degrees and clear conditions in Kisumu, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 26 in Kakamega, where it's clear this morning at 16. 18 degrees, clear conditions in Kampala, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 28 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam, currently at 22. It's 12 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 22 and lows of 11, and it's raining at 24 in Lagos, highs of 28 today. 29 will be the high in a clear Kinshasa, currently at 19. Looking out into Friday afternoon, Beijing is rainy at 30. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 25. Some of the hottest months ever recorded in Western Europe still today. We're looking at Paris, 19 degrees early morning, going to highs of 34 into the weekend, and 32 will be the high in a cloudy London. There's extreme high temperature warnings of orange already here and yellow in Paris. 26 degrees and cloudy in New York coming into Friday. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 22.
Welcome to SpiceFM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
"21 after 6.
Good morning, everybody, and we can see everybody is online today. Cheer, cheer, Titus Tanui. Good morning. tuning from Ruaraka in Nairobi. Congratulations in advance to MP-elect Marakwet West. Okay, well, I think everybody's congratulation drums are starting to beat this morning.
Who's the MP-elect Marakwet West?
Timothy Kipchumba Toroitich is who he's saying. Andre Wickards says, good morning. Robert Mbogo is tuning from Mombasa. Okech Willington is tuning from Nakuru. Edwin the First says, good morning. He's asking Ndu specifically who's won the presidential vote. Well, he says also that anxiety is finishing him. Don't let it finish you, I beg. You still have some time. Just where you are, relax. Everything is going to be all right. You'll know soon enough.
And finish yourself.
I beg. Unfinish yourself, people. Andrew Franklin is also asking, was SG able to call the winner of the presidential poll yesterday afternoon? My understanding is that all media outlets essentially shut down their tallying operations. Andrew, I'm not sure about your understanding. But no, the answer to your first question is no. As per your understanding, let's just wait and see. N'est-ce pas?
The tallying is still going on.
Yes,
now, you see, we have got to do the thing with the Forms 34B, right?
Yes.
So you have the 34As, and now you want to do the verification.
So
do all my A's in a constituency match with the B in that constituency?
That's when you then are now.
Yeah, that's when now you know you got the clarity.
Sawa?
Yeah.
All right. Peter Njoroge says, good morning, tuning from Kiambu. And he said that what I can say is that everyone should accept defeat. And if possible, we should move on regardless of the electoral votes. All right. I guess
everyone
that's
should accept defeat.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Right.
Birungi Jonathan Wasan. Wow. Says, good morning. Tuned in from Uganda. Okay. Machakos, Uganda. For today, we'll allow them to be in the same place. Good morning, Birungi. Obira says, good morning. He's tuning from Migori. Tuning from Chaka is Paul Mugo. Willie Bazu is also tuned in from Kitale. David from Sibukia is tuned in from Subukia. John Amasongole says, good morning. Kapenguria is where Dennis is. Luganya is tuning from Kangemi. And good morning, Dagoretti Waithaka is where Biketi Crescent is this morning. George Musiko says, good morning. Good morning to you, man. And Olewe says, good morning. We see you all. Karibuni sana. And thank you for joining us this morning.
Welcome, everybody. City. Where is the proverb from today?
Final one. From
Bagbo.
Nisawa.
Right. To one who does not know, a small garden is a forest.
To one who does not know, a small garden is a forest.
Yes, sir.
To a tortoise, to a chameleon.
Fairies and gnomes. Fairies and gnomes, definitely a garden is a forest.
It's a garden is a forest. Okay. So, to find out what's happening countrywide in terms of the election result, www.standardmedia.co.ke/2022 elections. Okay? You will find the tally and the national tally and the tally per county. And then also, if you want the raw data yourself, so you can tally for yourself, because, why do you want things done for you? Forms.iebc.or.ke. The IEBC this time has done the thing. All the results from the polling station are final, and all the results from the polling station have been uploaded onto this portal, forms.iebc.or.ke. You can download the forms and start counting for yourself. Add form number 1 up to form number 46,229. Then tell us who's the winner.
You'll be counting for yourself.
Yes.
You might take a tad more than 7 days, but hey.
Just tell us at the end of all this.
Just
tell
that
us
portal really informs you, because we now know
Mm.
that literally every county, with the exception, I think, of 3, every vote that is required has been accounted for. And they tell you 100%, 100%,
yes,
99.4%, 99. God knows. Yes, so
Yeah, the only one that have not, Garissa, 3 stations have not sent their results. Kakamega, 3 polling stations, and that's it. Oh, no, there's Mandera with 3 as well. All of them is 3. Nandi with 1. Tana River 1, and Wajir 5.
That's
all in all, 46,201 polling stations have reported their Forms 34A out of the 46,229. So 28 haven't. In terms of Forms 34B, unajua mahali ziko? 183 constituencies have sent their Forms 34B out of 291 constituencies. 62.89% of all the constituencies countrywide already have dealt with the presidential election result. And those returning officers should be heading to Nairobi as soon as possible. Hivo too.
Which is what we're waiting for now, essentially.
Yes.
And that's what people's asking, what's taking so long? What's happening? Why is it taking... Well, everybody's got to make their way to Nairobi. And, for some people, Nairobi's not just over the hill and down the stream. It's going to take a while to get here.
And remember, the returning officer is the boss of the constituency.
Yes.
The returning officer is in charge of all forms that come to him or her. 34A, 35A, 36A, 37A, 38A, 39A. Isn't it, Sita? Yes, A. And then compile the Bs. If he has finished compiling the Bs, then that's when he leaves to come to Chebukati. The returning officer cannot leave without sending a Form 35B, 38B, 39B, 37B to the county.
So that explains...
And declaring the winner of the MP seat and several MCAs.
And they've been working until very late, actually.
Yes.
Because that polling station near where I live, I thought after the election, after the voting rather, that people would dissipate. But vehicles are still parked. Then I realized, wait a moment, no. The exercise isn't over yet. We voted yes. They may have counted yes. There's the tally. I said, okay.
Is that the tallying center? That's St. George.
St. George's Primary.
Is it the tallying center for Dagoretti North?
I'm not sure, but it could very well be. Because it's the one place that it has the space.
Yeah.
It has the ground, it has many things.
It's likely to be the Dagoretti North Tallying Center. So it's busy. That before the returning officer actually departs the constituency to come to Nairobi, they've got to finish their job.
They can't leave any stone unturned before they leave.
Yeah.
So essentially what you've done is that you've shut down that station and nothing can happen there again because you're going then to Bomas with finality.
And also it means that whatever it is that you're telling, the IBC already has them.
Yep.
You are simply going there to deliver whatever physical representation is required.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And that takes a bit of time. But do we communicate this effectively? Because for most people, the latent understanding seems to be we vote, the following day people get results.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not true. In fact, the day after, you still don't get results. On the third day is when you start getting an idea of who the MCAs are, who the MPs are, women rep, etc., etc., etc. Now remember, all these votes, when you tally them, they are accompanied by the votes that were cast for the presidential seat. And then these have to be tallied from the 46,200 and what again?
29.
Those are many. So it can't happen in such a short time. Yes. But the anxiety, my man, the anxiety.
Well, the good thing is, because the result, the raw data is that one from the polling station. Because it's complete.
Done.
And it's all available. The only thing you're waiting for is the official confirmation.
No.
Everybody has seen the goal has gone in. You're just waiting for the referee to blow the whistle.
Blow the whistle so we can take the ball back to the center.
Yes.
The thing that I have observed at the time, people don't really want to do that granular work. No. They'd rather wait and be told. Even if you tell someone, there's an IBC
portal here.
I can send it to you so that you can. No. I'm just waiting for them to tell me. So, but that portal will tell you the same thing. No. I'd rather just be...
Oh, you media people, why aren't you telling us?
Yes. You, for instance, you work in the media. You tell me. I said, why don't I send you the link so that you can see it for yourself? No. I said, okay.
So somebody's asking, Ochwachi is asking, what if physical 34A delivered to Bomas is different from the 34A in the IEBC portal?
That's
That's
bas now.
That's bas.
That is the whole process
That is the
of
whole
verification.
process that's taking so long right now, that there must be verification between what is in the portal and what then is delivered.
And you see, verification means you start going back.
Yep.
Yeah, tracing it back.
Those who argue, can you actually go back?
There's a trail now.
There is.
Yes.
And it means physically counting.
Yes.
But this election is unique in that we don't have people competing with spoiled votes. Huh?
Not like last.
This particular one.
There's no candidate called spoiled votes.
Yes.
It's not like the previous ones. So people now have learned how to tick and cross the boxes.
But these guys have also been kind. You can put an X or a tick. Before it was either, was it an X or was it a tick?
It was either as well.
It was.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because where I was voting, I don't remember being given that choice.
The places that you visit are very interesting spots, CT, and I know we're going to the traffic in a bit, but Michael Guitar wants to know, please, CT, share your barbershop pin. I would like to visit.
For stories. Okay, basically I think to answer that question, Ochoachi, if what is happening is once the returning officer gets to Bomas, they go and find a desk waiting for them. This desk has the Chebukati officials plus the agencies, the agents of the 4 presidential candidates.
Yeah.
So you come with your form. Number 1, let's see, what are you carrying? These forms, check the security features for the forms to make sure that these are the ones. Then start looking at what you have brought here and what we have in the portal. Do they match? If they don't match, you're not sent back to the polling station to go and count. They now, because the result that has come out of the polling station is final, all they do, Chebukati will be signing a different sheet and say, we've got some error here. At the end, he'll say, I have 17 errors and 290 minus 17. That no error. And now let's go to the Supreme Court. Because the Supreme Court said, don't recount. Don't edit. It's not your job.
273.
What came out of the polling station is final. Yeah.
Don't aggregate.
Take the error now in your case that you want to take to court.
Yes.
And then they deal with it from there. But in terms of us changing anything, no.
This
erase this one and
uliandika 25 na ilikuwa 52.
Yes.
I think tuende na 52.
Yeah.
It was really mzuri. And then 27, is it 270?
So if you have an issue with it, take it to the court and use that as your evidence.
Yeah, so that then you're given the right to open that thing and recount. 26 to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
On the 10th of August, Samsung is taking a giant step forward in the technological race by unpacking the amazing Samsung Z Flip 4 and the Samsung Z Fold 4. Join me, Edward Quach, on the Spice Drive from 3 p.m. this week to learn more about the big launch as we look back at the advancements in mobile phone technology.
Tunapozidi kuboresha sekta ya kilimo, tunakumbatia mbinu bora za kiteknolojia. Kwa wakulima wote, Standard Group PLC kupitia Farm Kenya itaandaa siku ya maonyesho ya kilimo ikiwashirikisha washikadau wa sekta mbalimbali. Maonyesho hayo yatazingatia kumudu ukulima na ufugaji ili kuboresha maisha nchini Kenya. Jiunge nasi katika uwanja wa Dumberi Stadium, kaunti ya Kiambu, kutoka tarehe 1 hadi 2 mwezi Septemba kuanzia saa 2 asubuhi. Kushiriki, wasiliana na Caroline kupitia 0723-803-601 au barua pepe cnyandieka@standardmedia.co.ke. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Standard Group PLC na Farm Kenya.
Digger Classifieds is an all-in-one platform to find jobs, buy and sell motor vehicles or properties, to pay tributes to the special people in your life. www.digger.co.ke, the one address in Kenya that everyone loves to visit. Digger Classifieds. We're closer than ever to the 2022 general election, and now you can stay up to date wherever you are on the provincial results for the presidential, gubernatorial, senatorial, women rep, MP, and MCA seats. Just SMS the word Kura to 23278.
Yolanda Mulo and DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, you know it's
Sugar and Spice.
Great vibes, conversations, a lot of humor. I like to say we don't give an F, we give 3 Fs.
You and I are in this relationship, so it is me to tell you who we are.
When you ask a chick, how many guys have you been with? She's like, including
All right,
you.
so not much of that happening on the streets this morning. Traffic doesn't look too bad. Taking a look at coming off of Mombasa Road this morning, that didn't look too bad earlier. And so we're seeing a situation where we won't see much of it this morning. Talk to us through the day on SpiceFM KE, and let's keep things moving as much as we can. We're likely not to see traffic situations get out of whack.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, 22 minutes to 7. So what's in the front page of the papers?
All right, so we're looking at the front page of the Standard. Battle for 50% plus one as Kenyans wait with bated breath for the presidential poll winner to be announced anytime from now. Tallies by media houses last night showed that the race is too close to call, and it is now a dash to hit the 50 plus one mark for Raila Odinga and William Ruto to win the prize in the first round. So we can go into the details of that in just a minute. It's putting Raila Odinga at 47.7%. and William Ruto at 50.8%. On the front page of The Nation, Raila Ruto battle for parliament, race for House supremacy. Raila Odinga and William Ruto lived up to expectations in their respective bastions, with the Azimio leader taking MP slots in Nyanza, Nairobi, Western, Ukambani and Coast, and the Kenya Kwanza Supremo sweeping Mount Kenya, Rift Valley and Upper Eastern. Looking at the Kenya Kwanza coalition through to independence, Senate and the National Assembly, 119 so far for KK, 10 for independence, 133 so far for Azimio, and 87 are yet to be declared. That's what we're looking at on the front page of The Nation. Can we look into a story that seemed to have, people in a bit of a twist? Page 10 of The Nation. Now, Didmus Baraza, wanted in connection with shooting, seeks anticipatory bail. I'm sure before yesterday there are quite a number of folks who didn't even know such a thing existed, but all right. So it says it's on page 10, but then where did it go? Just give me a second.
It's on the 10th page.
Sorry.
From the front.
So I saw my own things. It's actually page 16. Voila. All right. Kimilili MP now seeks anticipatory bail. Didmus Baraza has moved to court seeking anticipatory bail as police seek to arrest him over a shooting incident at a polling station that left an AIDS bodyguard dead. Left a rival's aide dead. The MP says the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has not fully investigated the matter and that he's worried about his liberty. Okay, so we also saw the presser by members of the police service yesterday asking him to just come forward so that they could have, at any police station really of your choice, so that they could have a conversation about what really happened, which essentially is what they wanted to do. Baraza is apprehensive of an arrest by the police, and his movements are minimized. He needs to be granted bail pending arrest so that his right to life can be guaranteed within the earliest opportunity, according to Dr. John Haminwa, who is his lawyer. And he has said this in court papers. In the application filed at the High Court in Milimani, Nairobi, Baraza claims the victim belonged to a hit squad deployed to cause chaos in his constituency. According to reliable source, the deceased was part of a hit squad that was deployed from Nairobi and was in fact killed by a stray bullet due to wrangles with his confidants. Mr. Baraza has been branded a
So where did the bullet stray from?
I don't know where it strayed from. It strayed from
Who's
allegedly
telling,
Baraza's
who's telling
gun.
that story?
This is Baraza.
Baraza himself.
Okay, carry on.
Shall I? Okay. He's been branded a murderer, according to Haminwa, and he says without the due process being followed, prejudicing his right to fair trial and hence the need for the court to grant him bail pending arrest. He wants the application certified as urgent, arguing that no thorough investigations have been carried out by DCI. Camino says false information about the MP has been circulated affecting his safety through the court of public opinion. The lawyer says that the shooting occurred after the MP was engaged in a scuffle with some aspirants. He said no preliminary investigations have been undertaken, but he has been branded as the perpetrator due to the negative publicity. He's wary for his safety. He's fearful that if he's not granted bail, his security will be at risk. He adds that the police had invaded his office on Tuesday in the pretense of carrying out investigations. Okay. The information about the MP's role in the incident is not correct, as he was targeted for assassination by a hit squad. I am further informed that upon his arrival at the Kimilili DEB primary school, unknown persons started bashing him, causing chaos. In court papers, the lawyer faults the DCI for seeking to arrest the MP without first concluding their investigations. So, there are a couple of things here. Number one, it's an alleged incident. Number two, it really could not have been put on him because it was a stray bullet. Are they talking about where this stray bullet came from? No, they are not. A stray bullet that is going to hit somebody right front center in their forehead? All right. They're also talking about the fact that if he's arrested, he fears for his life, that something could happen to him, because the police have not carried out an investigation and they want him arrested. So this is just undue process. It's a witch hunt. And, in fact, he was actually the victim of this whole kerfuffle. He was the victim. There was a hit squad. They had sent assailants from Nairobi. They had actually come for him. He was the target.
And this gentleman who died was among the people who were part of the hit squad.
Yeah.
And the evidence for all this is where exactly?
See, he who alleges.
Up in the air.
So the stories that first came out about him drawing a gun, shooting, all that is hot air.
Yeah, uko na video. Tuone.
That's why I said all those stories that we first heard.
Hapo sasa ndio shida. Because you've got to produce the weapon.
And that weapon is not going to be found.
Okay. And then link that weapon to this particular gentleman.
That is going to be tricky.
Where?
But why did he? How?
Why has he gone missing?
Because
he's fearing harassment.
The cops ask you, why did you run? I didn't do anything. Okay, so why are you running, man?
I'm running away from you. Because I understand the first thing that I hear is that you're looking for me. In linking me to murder. So I'm like, wait a minute. I've got to take a breather first.
Even you do your investigations before you come.
Yeah, before you come and sort me out.
If you ask me.
Meanwhile, I'm waiting to go to the returning officer to pick my certificates.
A case such as this one, the DCI already have their facts.
You think so?
I know so.
The thing is, are those facts that can stand in court?
That is always the case.
Yeah.
But they have their facts because this is a high profile. It isn't someone who stole a chicken and then came to steal the egg and was caught stealing the egg. No. Someone died and was in broad daylight. There must have been witnesses.
Yes, no.
The fact that one doesn't hear of the police investigation is what informs me that they have investigated it. And they've decided, we'll talk about this after this election, whatever, then we can revisit it. But for now, those who wish to talk about it can talk about it, but we know what we're dealing with.
Is it the first time Didmas Barasa has been arrested?
No, it isn't the first time Didmas Barasa has been arrested.
So he knows what the process is now.
He does know what the process is. And also, the thing is this, he is right when he says there's a certain due process that must be followed. He is absolutely right. And these are the things we must understand, that in following the law, it doesn't mean you follow what you think is right. It's what the law says.
Yes. And you see these calls that have been coming from the NPS. Come and tell us what has happened. That is also due process.
It is due process.
They could lay down the law and find by fire by force. You tell me they don't know where he is.
They do.
But they're telling him, come and let's have a conversation. That also is part of the process. Because if we're going to be
surrender yourself within X number of hours, or else that is not come and let's have a conversation.
It is come. Let's have a
conversation. That's why he's going to court to say, we have not defined the conversation. We've just said conversation.
I want bail in anticipation that I'm going to be arrested. If they want to invite me, we have a cup of tea.
Let me know that I'm going after that.
Yes.
When people drink tea at police stations,
they're not served tea, but that's not utumishi kwa wote.
These places where you guys go now. Wow.
Service for all. Serve me tea.
as we have this chat.
What else would you like?
But
Crumpets?
I don't understand what they're exactly saying, because if they're saying, please present yourself, even if they say in 2 hours' time or else, they've told you to present yourself in 2
That's
hours'
what I'm
time
saying.
or
Just
else.
because we did not lace the conversation with adjectives doesn't mean we have not said it.
Yeah,
we have just
yes.
said come.
We
We've
know
not
you.
described the situation or the conversation.
We know
Just
you, police.
come.
We know you. We know what you do in such instances. And why I'm going to court is so that I can get bail. So you're told, don't arrest him. If you want to have a chat with him, invite him and guarantee that he's going to go back home. Not that you lock him up so he can go and pick his certificate. And you see the people of his constituency have overwhelmingly given him mandate
If
to
it was
represent.
you, Eric, by now.
They'd have been you and me, Juju.
Where?
That's because I don't know John
Slapping.
Haminwa. After this, I'm looking for Dr. John Haminwa and others. Mambo ya kuteswa tu hapa kunyanyaswa. No.
It has to stop.
It has to stop. We must know the law.
You see how City is looking at you. Just read the next story.
Let's talk about Kirinyaga. Okay. In Kirinyaga, governor candidate supporters were clashing yesterday, with each side claiming there was a scheme to rig them out. Independent candidate Wangoi Ngereshi stormed the Geshogo constituency tallying center at Kirinyaga High School with her supporters, accompanied by lawyer Ndegwa Njiro. They disputed results for Karumandi South Primary School polling station, with Wangoi saying there was no way the upper stream could vote more than the southern stream. She was accusing the presiding officer and the county returning officer of colluding with and favouring the incumbent Anne Waiguru. A vehicle belonging to the Kirinyaga County government, which tried gaining access to the tallying centre, was repulsed by protesters, and police turned it away to cool the tension. The protesters claimed a ballot box with seals and some IEBC papers were in the vehicle concealed in a carton. Boda operators spotted the vehicle trying to gain entry through the fence and cornered the driver, who was physically assaulted and later taken to hospital. Other occupants of the vehicle managed to escape. The Geshogo IEBC returning officer Geoffrey Gitobu bowed to pressure and agreed to retally the governor votes at the polling station in dispute. In the Geshogo parliamentary seat, the incumbent Gadhimo Gedenji of UDA was re-elected. And we also saw Governor Anne Waiguru protesting even on TV and saying, look, I am being harassed by Wangoi Ngereshi's supporters. They're stoning my vehicles. They're doing all these things up in the air. This is one of those races which is just so closely contested that every 10 minutes you hear there's a winner. And the winner that you're hearing now is not the winner that you had before. But all we know for sure is that the county returning officer has not declared a winner yet, announced the winner.
So the things that are giving
There's something
people
you said. It was on, when did we vote? Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah. You said this clearly on Wednesday, and you said, it looks like it appears that information has been given to lieutenants and cyber warriors that everybody must declare themselves and their people winners. Now, I'm not much of a social media person, but social media came to me. And just the number, you read until you get dizzy. Now, what is certain is this. With the announcement by IBC, that noise has quietened significantly. Yes, there are still people saying this, so and so. Someone is quoted as having said this has happened, and the other one, the other has happened. But it's a lot more quiet. But even with that quiet, the anxiety that people have is palpable.
Yeah.
That was actually the gist of the story about my Baba. It's palpable. People are anxious. And yet, remember this conversation we keep having about communicating effectively?
Yes.
It still comes to the surface. Because really, in talking about the elections and in talking about the 7-day window that the Constitution allows the IEBC, there should have been more communication about how it is the vote and how long it takes. So someone would know, they had said this should take 2 days. This one should take 3 days. And when this is finished, maybe on the 5th day is when we can have this. And it should have been repeated. At least there would be a reference point and someone says, actually, IEBC told us that the process of doing this thing from history, we can tell, to be able to get these things, this is how. But so long as that information was out there but not adequately, how people make up their own stories. They decide.
It's not the first time.
Oh, no, it isn't.
It isn't.
No, it isn't.
For the last 3 elections, that communication has been out there. There's 7 days within which to declare a winner of the presidential race. There's 7 days within which to declare a winner of a presidential race. This is going to happen from Bomas of Kenya. But I think that anxiety and everything, people just want to see how the game is going. Okay, so there's 90 minutes at the, for us to know that the game is over and to know the winner.
But in between,
we want to watch the game from minute 1.
Eric, you know that,
and we want to see it happening.
Actually, that's what raises the anxiety, because you've been told 7 days. I am saying get granular. All right? This is how these votes are tabulated, and this is how they accumulate. All right? When MCAs, it's local. Once it's announced, you more or less know who the winner is almost instantly. You don't have to worry too much about it. It's clear. It's a ward thing. MP next, like that. But when you just talk about the presidential race 7 days, and there's a gap here, and there are all these other elections that contribute to that final tallying of the presidential election, then people are in that, and they will create their own stories. See, I was seeing it. Nairobi residents, they're demanding that they want to hear the results. Demanding. Now, do you really think that even if people demand and you had explained, so when they demand, your reference point is, we had informed you, so let's inform you again. This is what we are doing, and this is what is done before we can do this. But so long as this is the process and it isn't clearly spelled out and repeatedly so,
I hear you, City. I'm just taking it back to the people who are anxious.
Yes.
And that's all of us, all right? All of us are watching this thing unfold, and we know there are 7 days. The people in Starehe are demanding that they are told who their MP is.
They want to know.
Okay? And why they're doing that is because they are raising questions of things that are happening. So we finished voting, counting started, tallying started. Now, what is keeping this up in the air?
Yes,
all right?
Why don't we get the final results?
When they're saying why, it's because somebody else has said, okay, there were some extra ballot boxes that were seen. This presiding officer has not arrived. There were some games that had played.
Some people were arrested.
People are arrested. That's what now is making people say, no. The people who do not think, people who don't think that there were ballot boxes that were cited, they want the election result announced today. The others that cited some ballot boxes are saying, no.
Wait.
No. And that's where the issues come in. I think it's that whole thing of all of us just not trusting this whole system. We can see,
but
we are watching the game. You can see. Like, remember that Shabiki from Tanzania? What are they doing? How the ball has gone out, and the linesman cannot just raise the flag, and the ball has gone out. What's happening?
Yes.
Fans invade the pitch.
Kabisa.
And they say, you gave me ishe.
You know what is really of interest? If I look at the amounts of money that people spend, and they spend with their people, and then the anticipation that if their person gets this particular position, what then awaits them? It's really high stakes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so emotions run really high. But that having been said, this particular election, yes, emotions may be running high, but we've seen them running higher.
This one is a bit...
this is mild. This is mild. This is tame. This is modest. This is,
Let's not get too much wahala. Let's go to the Rift, where voters are showing more faith in women by electing them to top positions. Nakuru County is on the verge of making political history in the August election. By the time of going to press yesterday, Senator Susan Kihika looked poised to occupy the governor's seat with 183,062 votes accumulated in Molo, Gilgils, Subukia, Kurusoi North and South constituencies. Incumbent Governor Lee Kenyanjui had 6,828 votes in the same areas. Tabitha Karanja, CEO of Keroche, who has fought battles with the government agencies over taxes, was also on her way to becoming Nakuru Senator on her first attempt in politics. She had 58,007 votes. while her nearest rival, former Infrastructure Cabinet Administrative Secretary Lawrence Karanja, had 66,200 votes from the same 5 constituencies. The county has a total of 11 constituencies. Gilgil MP Martha Wangari, Jane Kihara from Naivasha, and Charity Kadhambi from Joro became the first female legislators to defend their seats for the second time. In the Bahati race, Irene Jockey, a political newcomer, defeated vocal politician and ally of Deputy President William Ruto, Kimani Gunjiri. Jockey was contesting on a Jubilee Party ticket, and she got 34,308 votes against Gunjiri's 26,809. Wangari, through a UDA ticket, retained her seat after garnering 35,363 votes, followed by former MP Mavenge Nderito from Jubilee with 19,764. Stephen Gatima also followed with 5,357, and independent candidate Willie Washara with 428. So we are seeing that, this could happen. Kihara also won with 44,882 votes, and John Kihagi followed close behind with 24,800, well, not close behind, maybe about almost half. 24,891. So we're looking at voters in Lamu constituency. They've also made history by electing Jubilee Party candidate Ruweda Mohammed in the area's first female MP. In a race with 4 candidates, she beat men across board, and she says the curse has been broken.
Very good. Very good. You see, having this woman rep seats has helped a lot because people across the country have been able to see a woman leader in action and just started to internalize with the concept of a woman leader. Now look at the former woman reps who are getting other seats.
Yes, MPs, senators.
Gladys Wanga,
the governor.
Gadoniwa Mushomba, MP. We are seeing it. And so it's becoming, we are normalizing the whole idea of woman being elected as a leader. So we are seeing more and more women being elected in the single, it's called what, the constituencies. And that is, I say, to a great extent, thanks to the fact that people go to a ballot and they have one paper that has women candidates.
Sure.
And they are interacting with women candidates campaigning in their county.
Isn't that just
It
what
normalizes.
affirmative action is meant to do?
Yes.
That it is meant to have that thing for you front and center so that you can see the benefits of it, without which you wouldn't have seen it. And so now people can make informed decisions based on an experience that they've had. Without it, you would not have had it.
And yeah, remember even on on Monday when we were asking people, do you know who you're going to vote for? And many people called here saying, yeah, I know MCA, but this woman rep, I don't know, I don't see the value. This is some of the value. This is the value. The value of it is the fact that if Esther Passaris or Rachel Shebesh came to your constituency today and said, I want to vie here, it wouldn't have been odd.
No,
it would not be odd at all. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. This is the Situation Room. We're live on SpiceFM across the country. We're also broadcasting to the world, SpiceFM KE on YouTube and on Facebook. And also tracking the numbers as they come in on www.standardmedia.co.ke/2022 elections and looking at the forms as they populate on the IEBC portal. forms.iebc.or.ke. forms.iebc.or.ke. Now we are tracking the Forms 34Bs from the constituencies. Good morning, 7 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. We continue to bring you the latest with regards to the August 9th general election. My name is Dennis Aseto and this is Newswire. Now, IEBC continues to rush against time in verifying Form 34As and 34Bs. These as various candidates in this election continue to gather results. Some are happy, some on the other hand are conceding defeat. Now, as the process of verifying Form 34As and Form 34Bs continue at the Bomas of Kenya, Kenyans are eagerly waiting for the announcement and the conclusion of the exercise and a winner announced. Thus far, only 6 results have been announced, but the IEBC chair of Fuller Chebukati, our reporter Rita Tinina, is at the Bomas of Kenya and brings us up to speed with the latest.
It has been a long night here at the National Tallying Center, and of course it will be one long day as well. Since the first returning officer arrived here at the Bomas of Kenya, as mentioned there, only 6 results from 6 constituencies have been verified and announced by the IEBC chairman. Webuye East, Baringo Central, Oljoro, Kathiani, Kangundo, Lamu East. And just to note, just 6 constituencies, 695 polling centers in those constituencies, and that is just 1.5% out of the 46,229 polling stations across the country. And according to the IEBC portal, this is where the presiding officers were first loading the scanned image of the Form 34As. So far, 99.94 forms have been loaded. That is 46,201 out of the 46,229. So I would say the process here at the Bomas of Kenya quite slow. When the IEBC chairman addressed those who are here, he indicated that there were about 80 returning officers who are here waiting for the results that they have come with. The Form 34As and 434Bs to be verified here. Initially, when the IEBC set up in readiness for those returning officers, there were only 5 tables here. Right now, there are 8, and Wafula Chebukati had indicated that they were going to increase those tables by tomorrow.
We continue to mourn not Kasarani, but Bomas of Kenya as we continue to collect information from them. But now let's go to Starehe, where there has been an uproar this morning after leaders from both UDA and Azimio stormed the Tallying Center demanding that the results be announced. The leaders, Rachel Shebesh of Azimio and Margaret Wanjiru of UDA, demanded that the returning officer announces the result without further delay, maintaining that there are dirty games being played. Demands the returning officer declined to heed to. The returning officer wants the ballot boxes opened so she can retrieve the physical Form 34As allegedly after the forms disappeared. Earlier, a presiding officer from one of the polling stations in Starehe constituency had been whisked away by police from angry youth at the Jamhuri Tallying Center. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission official was allegedly found with an unmarked booklet of election papers in his bag while gaining access to the center that was heavily guarded by GSU officers. Confirming the incident, Central Police Station boss Fred Abuga said officers had to rescue the presiding officer from the wrath of supporters of one of the candidates in the Starehe parliamentary race who were baying for his blood. Some leaders who were there at the station and had this to say.
All these are ballot papers for Starehe constituency.
We actually also called the police and we said we were worried about the police officers who seem to be compromised. So everything that is happening now, it is not that we do not follow procedure. We followed all procedure that IEBC has laid out. But unfortunately, even with giving them that indication that something is going on, it has taken our own supporters to find these materials and to actually force these suspects to be brought here.
These papers that have been brought here are not papers only for senator or governor. It's papers for presidential election, Senate election, senatorial, gubernatorial, MCA, and women rep, and member of parliament for Starehe. Now, this dents the credibility of this election. Because if ballot papers can be carried in a bag, in a rucksack, and somebody walks around with them here in town for 2 good days, it is shocking. What kind of election is this that somebody is trying to do? How did this person access these ballot papers? You remember the way ballot papers arrived in this country? Zilikuja kwa njia ya utatanishi at the airport. Some commissioners even say they're not aware of the arrival of the ballot papers. Now somebody is working with them in town here in Nairobi. This must be happening in all parts of the country. Because if somebody could access ballot papers, documents like ballot papers in Nairobi, well, what stops him from accessing in a rural place where there is no police, even proper security?
We will be bringing you more details in an hour. I'm Dennis Asena. Good morning.
It's looking good, and most of these streets into the city centre is where you'll see most movement, but there's nothing in terms of traffic. The weather is a bit poor this morning, so visibility is low. Folks are moving a lot slower than they normally would, which is all right so that you get where you're going without too much of a hiccup. But we're not seeing any traffic, and it looks like we're going to yet another day getting out towards the end of the week where activity is still rather low. Coming off of the Thika Superhighway, coming off of Waiaki Way, and then James Gishru from there. Guys, we're not going to have an issue with traffic this morning. It's going to flow freely, and it looks like it's going to be that way until the end of the week. Just in case things go out of whack, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up.
7
not
after
down.
7, good morning, and how are you
This
doing?
is the
It's
Situation
Friday,
Room.
the 12th day of August 2022. So how many days is it since Tuesday? You know, I've even lost track of these days. You're sleeping during the day, you are awake at night, you are just napping in between. You have absolutely no clue.
It's been 3 days, man.
It's been 3 days. Jeez.
Today is the
Feels
fourth
like
day.
it was last week. Okay. City, you have the day's proverb.
I most certainly do.
Okay.
To one who does not know, a small garden is a forest.
To one who does not know, a small garden is a forest. This is a proverb from
Gabon.
Okay. Sawa basi. This is the same country that we were talking about last week, whose president is Ali Bongo.
You know, asking it wasn't last week.
Huh?
It was on Monday.
Shimanda was last week.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Man, these days.
You know, since we voted, 2 weeks have
It's a
gone by.
long time ago. You don't believe me? Ask a man called George Maringa. He's a reporter in Starehe constituency. He's been out there since last year. George, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thank you. You agree with me, right? It's been so long since we voted.
Yeah, it's been so long. So much is happening, especially here at the Starehe constituency Tallying Center. More of a standoff which has ensued at Jamhuri High School, which is the Tallying Center of Starehe constituency, and this was after, Jubilee's Amos Mwago accused UDA's Simon Bogo of manipulating results, and that has caused quite a standoff here from the better part of dawn, because we arrived here in just about 4 a.m. And there was a standoff because that had been preceded by 3 people being arrested, having suspected of having election material, ballot papers which were allegedly marked, and these especially by leaders affiliated to Azimio, who alleged that the ballot stuffing at Starehe constituency was going on, and 3 people were taken in for questioning at Central Police Station. One of them has since been released on bail. The standoff, which is currently ongoing, is that the returning officer seems not to be finding between 3 to 7 forms 34A of the Tallying Center right here, and of course that has also been coupled with the disappearance of a presiding officer. And so the disappearance of those forms, whereas the law requires a digital version of a form, it also should be accompanied by a physical form, and that is what has been missing for the better part of the
Hold on, George.
So, George,
There are
sorry.
so many
Yeah.
things.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go with the things. Let's list them one by one. Number one, did you say missing presiding officer?
No. Yes, there was a presiding officer who, one was even arrested. Could not be, that they were among the three that were being, sought after by, after the Azimio leaders, raised alarm.
Okay.
And then there were also forms that were, released, or rather that were missing, forms 34A that were reportedly missing from, this tallying center.
Okay. So how do the forms arrive from the polling station to the tallying center? Are they not sealed within the ballot box?
Yeah, they're sealed within the ballot box, but then they appear to be missing. And that's the mystery. They just cannot be found.
So the ballot box has arrived.
Yes, the ballot box
it appears
is,
sealed, but it does not contain the signed Form 34A.
Yes, and that was brought about by some couple, because just when the three persons were arrested for having election material is when, there are, of course, there are hundreds of supporters who are in this tallying center who are here to, to witness that, and of course there was some sort of confrontation. So in that moment is when those forms allegedly disappeared.
Okay, so George, also we've seen the inclusion of police there this morning. So, what arrests were made of whom and for what reason?
The three presiding officers were being suspected of having, were being suspected pretty much of rigging, electoral malpractice. That's why they were arrested and taken to Central Police Station, and even the governor of Nairobi City County. That is Anne Kananu. He gave a presser yesterday, last night, saying that they were calling for investigations into the issue.
I still don't. Forgive me. This early in the morning, I'm actually really slower than I usually am. So, the presiding officers arrested. That bit I've gotten.
Yes.
Malpractices. Repeat again. What is the malpractice that they're being accused of?
The malpractice is that they were having ballot papers. So apparently, they allege that they had emergencies to deal with, and that's why they had the said forms. That was the what we were gathering, because of we arrived there quite late. It was just about midnight. That's what we were gathering. That the excuse of the reason they gave was that they were busy, they had an emergency, and that's why they had the alleged forms. And there were just about 20,000 actually. Those forms from the IBC, the ballot papers, that is. The ballot papers were in the thousands, and then in that moment when they were quote unquote allegedly nabbed, is when the fracas happened, the forms disappeared.
So what's happening now at Jamhuri High School?
So the standoff, the Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, one of the contestants in political
the senatorial candidate for UDA.
Yeah, senatorial candidate for UDA, as well as the other agents are in a meeting to discuss, because the returning officer suggested or flaunted the idea of having ballot boxes opened to be able to re-verify these results. But, the Shebesh team, as well as Professor Dr. Margaret Wanjiru, rejected that proposition, that offer.
So standoff as we speak.
Yeah, it's a standoff as we speak.
Okay, so now let's put it in context. The fact that there's a standoff there and the returning officer is pretty much in charge, we are only having a standoff with regards to the presidential tally, right? Do we have an issue with the other 5 elections?
I mean, they are. The main issue is, of course, the presidential, but they're saying they need to dispense of issues bit by bit. So if they want to dispense of the presidential matter, then they come to the gubernatorial, senatorial, and then that of women representatives.
My word. Which means that it's going to take a lot longer for this returning officer to leave
Yeah.
Jamhuri High School and head towards Bomas.
Yes.
All right, George, thank you very much for this update. We'll be getting in touch with you hopefully later this morning for anything new.
Thanks, George.
All right. Okay, thanks.
George Maringa is a KTN reporter and our correspondent in Starehe constituency. He's at Jamhuri High School. You just had the update. Standoff there. We don't know how long this is going to take, but the leadership is there and they are trying to have a political settlement over this. This is, it's just one, all right? And there are others that we are hearing from various other areas, left, right, and center. We've heard the same of Madare constituency as well, that there was a standoff. There's been a standoff. It was reported in the nation, other areas. So as long as this is happening in Starehe, it means that the county tallying center, which is at Nyayo Stadium, is still not active.
Good Lord. So, I mean, this is it. Isn't it? It's now contributing to already that nail-biting scenario of many folks and the anxiety and nervousness and the insistence on having, results announced. It cannot happen with matters like this taking place. It cannot happen with issues like this going on at this time. And I think it just, unfortunately, it prolongs the anxiety, it prolongs the wait, it prolongs, the issues that people have been seeing over the last couple of days. So, I mean, that's what we are looking at. That's where we are. It doesn't look like, and many would have hoped for, again, at today. You only know, as they say, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and she has not sung just yet.
Bado.
Yeah.
Bado. We'll be speaking to other correspondents around the country, plus other persons of interest, those who have won, those who are raising issues, those who are conceding in the election. But let's look at the positives. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, some positives. You talked about first woman MP elected directly in Lamu County.
Yes. So you want me to give you the details of that once again. So, I mean, we're looking across the country. Nakuru then, making history. But then let's also look at voters in Lamu East constituency. They've made history by electing Jubilee Party candidate Rawida Mohammed as the area's first female MP. In a race with 4 candidates, Mohammed received 5,498 votes. So it's the first time that they've seen that. Also look at Githunguri constituency. Outgoing Kiambu woman representative Gathoni Wamushomba garnered 34,646 votes against Jubilee's Gabriel Kago, who was a second with 31,127 votes. Wamushomba also becomes the first woman MP for Githunguri. Githunguri. I've broken the curse, she said, and Githunguri will be led by a woman for the first time due to the difficulties I encountered during the campaigns. This is no small feat, Wamushomba said after being declared the winner. So there was a total of 71,357 votes, and they were cast by from a total of 104,592 registered voters. Following her victory in the Aldai constituency, Marianne Kitani UDA joined the list of women elected to Parliament. Phyllis Bartow, who is the new Moi Ben constituency MP-elect, also comes from UDA. Rosa Buyu of ODM of Kisumu West became the latest entrant to join the party in Nyanza, increasing women's representation in elective seats in the region after defeating veteran politician Olago Alwoch. Millie Odhiambo, whom we know, retained her seat from Suba North. Ivo Barra, Kabondo Kasipu, and Lillian Gogo, Rangwe, fought off a slew of male challengers to reclaim their seats in Homa Bay County. According to the results, the county is the only one in the region that has elected more women. Only Kisumu joined Homa Bay in giving women a chance by supporting Buyu in all other Nyanza counties. Former Karachonyo MP Phoebe Muga Asio is known for having produced one of the toughest female political players in the county. Kisumu is also known for producing the county's first female MP, Grace Onyango. In the past, Asio easily defeated male opponents, including the former powerful Kanu National Chairman David Okiki Amayo, who held the seat for two terms, and was regarded as an unshakable political titan. And it is this example set by trailblazers that the 4 female MPs who defied male domination to win seats seats appear to be following after the IEBC declared them winners of the Tuesday election. Millie Odhiambo of ODM won a third term in Suba South with Suba North with 27,130 votes to federal party's James Akali's 18,151. She's a seasoned political operative with both inside and outside parliament. She's the only female MP in the region to have won 3 consecutive terms since her election as an elected leader in 2013, following a brief stint as a nominated MP. She's the only elected female MP in the region prior to the entry of her fellow women leaders. And so she's retained her seat as well. But it's interesting that you're seeing this coming out of Nyanza, which CT has told us in the past. And I remember that it was extremely difficult. And I remember we also had this mirrored by Priscilla Nyokavi, who also said that it was extremely difficult to even see or to get rationale for people to vote in women leaders in this area. But you see that now.
But that's for Western. In Nyanza, remember, we've had the Phoebius Hios and the Grace Onyangos.
My friend Grace Onyango was the first female
which
MP
they've said here.
in the country.
In the entire country.
Not country. Yes.
Yeah. But for people to see this, Western was that was Western, but then to see that this is now leading the nation, I think is an interesting thing.
I think, Nyanza stays on brand because just like we're saying, Grace Onyango was the first female MP in the entire country. We had Kina Phoebius Hio, who are powerhouses in this area, and the others. So seeing this many number of women leaders also being elected coming from Nyanza so easily, it's a good thing. Seeing if it's declared that Homa Bay goes to
Gladys Wanga,
then that's also a big thing and a positive. Look at that. Look at what this exposure of women leadership is actually doing at the electorate.
Githunguri, first as well.
First time ever that there's a woman who is taking over this position, but she's not coming in as a newbie. She's somebody who has been the Kiambu woman representative. So they already voted. The people of Githunguri already participated in voting for her in 2017 as a woman rep. So when she comes back home and says, now I'd like to be the area MP, they're like, okay, we engaged with you, we interacted with you in 2017, we know you, we voted for you in 2017, so okay.
Going back to
it's
your
easy
earlier
to tick
point.
the box.
Going back to your earlier point, Wamshomba, if, for example, if there was no woman rep position, if she had not been the woman rep for Githunguri, would she have been able to come out to the people of Githunguri and say, give me an opportunity to lead as your MP? Didn't this just elevate her to a certain level whereby they said, okay, hold on a minute, look at what she has been able to do. Look at how she has been able to represent us at that level. Let's take it a notch higher and then see if we can give her more battleground with which to fight with.
Maybe they would have, considered her. It may have been a tougher battle because also remember Kiambu has had other women MPs elected from
yes, they have.
Remember there's Thika, what was her name? She was a former mayor of Thika, then she became MP.
She's called...
and then she went to Iala.
Yes, notably... Mumbi
Ngaru, right?
Yes.
Gatundu North with Wanjiko Kibe.
And in an even earlier time, you had... what's her name again?
Beth Mugo.
Yes, Beth Mugo. There were quite a number. Jason, my goodness, the memory is doing a...
today is a day.
It's doing a slow dance.
Yeah. But let's cross over back to Homa Bay, all right? And the Honorable Gladys Wanga is with us on the line. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Hi, good morning to all listeners.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. How are you doing today?
Just at 4 a.m. this morning,
yes.
Was declared as governor-elect for Homa Bay, and therefore very elated, but also a bit exhausted because it's been a long, treacherous campaign.
Must have been a tough one. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So, what was the final tally of the votes?
The final tallies were 200 and 54,000 for myself
Mm-hmm.
and 144,000 for my opponent.
So that's
Who was
100,000 gap.
Kidero. Yeah, it's 100,000 thereabout.
Mheshimiwa, somewhere between, yesterday, the day before yesterday, things were looking a bit, they were going to one way or another. And I saw a clip of you where you seemed to have been looking a little bit, exasperated with the process. What were you thinking at that time? Had your confidence dipped a little bit, or where was it going for you, and what was confusing you at that level?
No, really, because from the day of announcement and declaration of results at the polling stations, we already knew the results. But what was difficult was that we were dealing with propaganda, which was causing a lot of confusion, and all of us knew our results because every one of us had agents at the polling stations, and by midnight of the day of election, we all in our tallying centers knew the results. So what was, uncomfortable was the fact that, my opponent chose propaganda to cause confusion. And, it's not just confusion, it's also incitement, which is a very volatile situation. I mean, elections are emotive. And if you don't handle this end part well, then you can lead to unnecessary, violence, fighting, and so on. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, no, actually, you are beyond Mheshimiwa. Your Excellency, congratulations.
Your Excellency elect.
Congratulations are in
Thank
order. We've
you can
heard
just call me
talks.
Gladys, that's also fine.
Okay. We've heard it said that one of the things that was being touted as a good sign of humility and victories, people calling their opponents and having a little chat, wishing them well and hoping that they would work together. Has this happened between you and your competitor?
Well, as soon as I was declared this evening, I have extended an olive branch to my competitor. I have said that the politics is now behind us. Our interest was both of us was to serve Homa Bay. He had ideas to serve Homa Bay. I had ideas. And this is the time to compare notes and say, okay, I didn't have the mantle this time, but what I was thinking was if we did this and this, things would improve. And therefore, the olive branch is out there. I will continue to find ways of reaching out so that we can, work together to bring Homa Bay to where it needs to be.
I think that is very well said.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Congratulations once again, Honorable Gladys Wanga.
Thank
We
you
were
so
just
much
talking
for
about
inviting.
the women leadership and the fact that we are seeing more and more women being elected, and the importance as well of having that woman rep seat. There are many people who have been saying, you know what, I don't see the purpose of this woman rep seat. And we've been arguing on this show that the fact that it exposes, first of all, it exposes the women who get elected into this, and then it gives them that profile. It helps, doesn't it?
It helps a great deal. And that's the purpose of affirmative action positions. It's not for people to stay there forever, but it's for you to get the exposure, as you say it. Once you get the exposure, once people know what women can do in leadership, then when you run for a higher position, not really higher, but a position that's more competitive, then you're able to, then get elected there. But if you just come from scratch, it is more difficult. When I became woman rep, I became a commissioner in the Parliamentary Service Commission, big exposure. Then I became first woman to become chairman of the Finance and National Planning Committee in the National Assembly. That was also extremely good exposure, and that's how I got a platform to run for governor.
Very well put, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
Have a lovely day. Go rest now. You can sleep for 2 days, and then...
No, I'm headed to the Bomas of Kenya.
The work is not complete.
Listen, you know what?
In solidarity with my party leader and the fifth president. I'm headed to the Bomas of Kenya. I'm leaving Homa Bay now for Nairobi.
Okay.
All right.
Travel
And
safe.
there's no room for... We'll sleep after swearing in.
After all is said and done, eh?
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much for your message of goodwill.
Thank
Asante. That is Homa Bay Governor-elect, the Honorable Gladys Wanga. She was declared the winner at, she tells us, about 4 a.m. This morning. That's when the county returning officer then issued her with a certificate saying she has won. And she won with a margin of about 100,000 votes against her closest challenger, former Governor of Nairobi, Dr. Evans Kidero. Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's also look at the other women who've been elevated or who have won across the country. We're looking at those who have won the MPCs, those who've been declared. Let's look at those ones who are also being projected to win the governor seats as well. We're likely to have more than 3 women governors after the 2022 general election. It's a big thing. Let's take a break. It's 29 minutes to 8. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country, and I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Number the Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it and should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The light rain continues in Nairobi, highs of 21. We'll see highs of 23 in a mostly cloudy Nakuru at 15. And it's raining at 12 in Nyeri, highs of 17. And Eldoret is sunny at 14, highs of 22 and lows of 13. 22 and light rain continues in Mombasa this morning, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 27 as well in a rainy Malindi. It's sunny at 21 in Kisumu, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 26 in a sunny Kakamega at 19. It's 19 and sunny in Kampala. We'll see highs of 27 and 28 will be the high in Dar es Salaam, where it's 21 degrees and sunny. 11 degrees and partly cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 22. 28 will be the high in a rainy Lagos at 24. And it's 19 and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 29 and lows of 19. And we'll see clear conditions through today. It'll be the least of your worries today, traffic in Nairobi and really in most parts of the country. As we're looking at through the morning and most people are settling down, waiting for answers, it looks like it's not on the streets where folks are waiting, so traffic is not an issue. Into the CBD, we'll see a little bit of movement here and there, but nothing crazy at all. We're looking at a little bit on Gong Road coming out through its community and into the CBD. And then just at the mouth of Aerodrome as it connects with the Huru Highway, a little bit of traffic there. But apart from that, you have nothing to really contend with coming out from most major streets, roads in the city. Traffic looks like it will not be an issue. Just in case it is, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
So,
Nairobi.
Gladys Wanga, Homa Bay Governor. elect, right? Kirinyaga, it's up in the air, but the race is very tight between who? And Mumbi Waiguru and
Ngirishi.
Wangui Ngirishi. Okay, so
you know really what is.
So it's gonna be another woman, second woman.
But it's interesting because even as you're talking about.
Let me finish counting.
Why don't you finish counting?
Okay. Kwale.
Yes. So, Kwale, we're looking at the deputy, so now previous deputy, former governor of Kwale County, and looks like she will also win that. Just a minute.
Is it confirmed?
Well,
she's heading in that direction.
Yes.
she is.
Okay.
Either declared or projected to win.
Yeah, so they're
Kwale
just waiting.
Gonna have a woman deputy governor.
Yeah, so Fatuma Chani looks like she will come in and be the governor elect of Kwale County, waiting for those results. But it seems like she beat the next contender by quite a number of votes, and they're just waiting for that. It went off to a smooth start, and it also looks like she's going to sweep that position. So we're looking at another governor coming out of Kwale County.
So deputy governor rising to governor in Kwale. 3 women so far. In Meru, looks like woman rep Kawera Mwangaza is going to be the next governor of Meru County. I had replacing Kiraito Morongi. That's how many women governors? 4. In Nakuru, it looks like Senator Susan Keheka, who is a former speaker of Nakuru County, is going to be the new governor of Nakuru. That's how many? 5. In Machakos, Wavinyandeti is the new governor of Machakos County.
She's already been declared, yes.
That is 6.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
So double the number that we had
before
in 2017.
Yes, because previously we were looking at Ann Waiguru for Kirinyaga. We're looking at Kitui County, Charity in Gilu, and
the late
Laboso. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, as we were saying, among the women who led in this position of being the first this or the first the other, Ruth Adhiambo Odinga was deputy governor of Kisumu during our first outing of these gubernatorial positions. And now she's women rep elect for Kisumu County. Yes. It's interesting. The family comes from Bondo, yes, but she grew up in Kisumu. So as much as somebody can belong to a town, she's a
Kisumu girl.
She is most distinctly a Kisumu girl. And clearly, the people of Kisumu seem to have recognized this simple fact.
Yeah.
Because being elected women rep, it's not a constituency. No.
It's a county seat.
It's a county seat, yes.
Which means she's now priming herself properly to come and take over from Anyang' Nyong'o.
Yes.
He serves his 2 terms.
Exactly, because we're looking at another 5 years and that comes to a head, and folks already know who this woman is and the work that she can do. Speaking of women and their leadership, there's something interesting that's been covered in the Standard today, right? Junette, we know that he's retained his seat sooner, right?
Yes.
And he won that election and he was declared yesterday. But he didn't campaign as such. Not necessarily because he was, assuming of the position. Somebody campaigned for him, but it was not him. It was his wife. And it was noted that she knew Junette Mohammed would be consumed by the presidential campaigns and missing out on his own campaigns for his re-election in Suna East constituency. Deka Jama knew her role was cut out. Junette's opponents had turned his absence from the local scene to a campaign tool and were keen to discredit his development scorecard. Some had even christened him an absent MP. But with his die cast, his opponents were optimistic of mounting a successful campaign against him. But armed with the belief that Junette's absence to campaign for ODM leader Raila Odinga was a worthy cause, Deka joined the campaign trail in a sustained vote hunt for her husband. Junette's supporters believe she is the key that enabled him win a 3rd term without campaigning for himself. In the last 2 weeks to the polls, Deka was the face of Junette's re-election strategy. Yesterday, Junette retained his seat after garnering 26,516 votes from his constituency, giving him a chance of serving for a 3rd term. He won by a landslide, with former Keleleshwa MCA Elias Okumu coming a distant second with 4,978. Yesterday, Jamal said Jeanette's track record convinced residents to back him for another term. But constituents are saying the reason why they put him back in is because her role in making sure that his presence was felt, even if he was not physically there, was monumental.
So should Baba win the presidency, and the way Jeanette has been working very closely in the national campaign, and Baba wants a cabinet minister and picks Jeanette, that seat becomes vacant. Are you seeing where I'm going?
I can see where you're going, man.
We saw you coming, bro.
We saw you coming, man.
Millionaire 18. Very good. I forgot another name. Cecily Mbarire.
Right.
Embu. 7.
7
Hiya.
governors.
Let's cross over to Kirinyaga. Our reporter, Jen Mugambi, is on standby. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you. And you?
We are very well. Please tell us, you are at the county tallying center now. Yesterday you were at a constituency tallying center.
Actually, yesterday we were at Gishogo Constituency Center, where a team of Kirinyaga women rep Wangoi Ngirishi stormed the tallying center with some goods demanding a certain form, 34B, where they claim that the results for Karumande South Primary School polling station had been altered. So they demanded for retally, of which it was done. And it matched that Waiguru had defeated her with 6,675, while Wangoi Ngirishi got 21,285.
Was this a reflection of the previous one, what she was contesting?
Yeah.
So it was the same.
It was the same. You see, in her claim, she says there's no way that in the same polling station, she can have different figures in two streams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what exactly did she mean? I mean, the two streams, do they have a similar number, an exact number of...
She meant the first stream and the second stream are people from Karumande. And that is her stronghold. That's what she believes.
Okay.
So she didn't expect that in one stream she can get 10,000, in another one she can get 2,000.
Oh, she wins in one. Yeah, that's weird though.
She won in one and then lost in the second one.
That is quite weird though.
So the two figures could not actually make her understand how she can lose in her own stronghold in two streams in the same polling station.
Yeah.
So they came with Ndegwanjiro, where they started telling the returning officer, who is Geoffrey Gitobu, that he has to retally, of which it was there was some commotion, and the returning officer had to tell them either they come with an order or he gets a go ahead from the county returning officer, who actually gave him the go ahead, and that is actually why we have this retallying done.
Okay.
From there, we went to Kirinyaga Central, where they followed us still. They still demanded a form, that is 7B. They got it from the returning officer, James Maingi, for Kirinyaga Central, that is at the Kerogoya Boys. And things got nasty. They started destroying materials there. They caused a lot of chaos. And
if I may ask, sorry to interrupt you, but who is they?
The Ngereshi and the goons, they followed us from Gishugu. They came to Kirinyaga Central. Yeah, they came, started causing chaos. Luckily enough, security was very alert. The returning officer was whisked away when as we started running for our dear lives, so that we may not be caught in the skirmishes.
Okay.
At night, at the Catholic Hall now, that is the Kirinyaga County the County Tallying Center, they tried coming to cause chaos. a similar thing happened, but police was able to get out the goons who had come to attack people.
Okay.
Police were able to get several pangas
Mm.
and some machetes and some rungus. Yeah, I'm yet to get full information how many people may have been arrested. But up to when I left that town around midnight, police were still in town chasing the youth not to get to the Tallying Center at the Kiruguya Catholic Hall.
So as things currently stand, is that the activity at the Tallying Center continues, and until we get a final answer, we really don't know what or who the winner is right now.
As for now, the only results that I have are only for 3 constituencies. We are still waiting for Mwea,
Okay.
where I'm told the tallying finished late at night. And the police have said they're looking for one Moses Kuria, who through social media say that the returning officer from Mwea has been kidnapped, of which it is not true.
Okay.
Yeah, he said that the returning officer has been kidnapped, whereas actually he was at the Tallying Center at the Wanguru Girls doing his work.
Okay. So, how much longer do you project until we know who the next governor of Kirinyaga is going to be?
Roughly 2 p.m. Between 1 and 2 p.m. Let's say from the afternoon time.
Okay. From the
Yes,
three
for now, we are just anticipating.
From the 3 constituencies that you have, who's leading?
Waiguru is reading.
And what's the kind of margin?
Yeah. Around 5,000, 15,000.
Okay.
And of
Yeah,
the
15,000.
constituencies within this county, which of these constituencies is the most populous?
The most popular is Mwea. That has got it has 131,647 voters, followed by Gishogo 92,495.
Okay.
Something which has been mentioned time and again, that there has been voter apathy. Has this been experienced in Kirinyaga?
Yeah.
So, if you look at the turnout in Kirinyaga, what percentage of those who have turned up would you say is a factor of the actual population of registered voters in Kirinyaga?
The number was not pleasing because majority of the youth actually, let's say, it's like they didn't want to go to vote. The elderly people are the ones who went to vote. Elderly means it is from 45 going up.
Okay.
To around 80. But the youth between 18 to 35, very few. The turnout was not that pleasing. Maybe that is why Ngirishi lost, because most of her supporters were the youth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jane, thank you very much for this update.
Yeah, well, you're most welcome.
Asante sana.
Karibu sana.
That's Jen Mugambi, our reporter in Kirinyaga, telling us what's been happening in the last 24 hours. So, skirmishes here and there in various constituencies. Out of the 4 constituencies, results are in from 3. The most popular one, Mwea, not yet. The tallying started late. But then there was this back and forth between the 2 leading contenders, and Mombi Waiguru and Wangoi Ngirishi. But that issue of, I can understand. So this is your stronghold. This is one school. In the one school, there are various streams, and these are the polling stations. You win in one stream, you lose in the next stream by a huge margin.
In the same center.
In the same center. Same people from the same village.
You would ask the question, of course. You would ask, like, what is going on here?
And then the retally confirms it. You still ask yourself, so what happened? How is it that the people who are from A to G, let's say, all voted for me, and then from H to Z voted for my opponent?
Yeah, indeed.
You know, the questions are going to keep arising, especially in some of these areas where we witness some very tight contestation. But again, a lot of our interpretation of what's happening is born out of the experiences we've had and our understanding that our electoral process, the actual process of voting tends to be compromised.
Yeah.
You hear of a voter turnout of 108%, 102%. You actually hear of the dead resurrecting. I mean, things like that.
And these are the things that, and you hear them much later, you know.
Yes, you do.
Like now you're hearing them in these other races, that there was a huge turnout, there's ballot stuffing, like what you're hearing in Kasarani, the presiding officer arrested. There was, ballot materials, ballot boxes have arrived at the tallying center. They are missing the Form 34A.
Yes.
Why is the Form 34A? Yet this thing is sealed. So what happened in between? You ask yourself, wait a minute. How? You've got agents, you've got security officers, you've got a returning officer, and then this thing still happens.
You know, the history we have and the narrative that is dominant in that history is how our electoral processes are manipulated. So it's even difficult to determine what is the truth and what isn't.
Exactly.
Okay? When you hear of ballot boxes being found in some river,
In this day and age.
You hear of some center which is not registered a tallying center where votes are being counted, and you're wondering, now surely.
How is this possible?
How is this possible?
In this day and age,
yes,
voting has happened, counting has happened in a specific, in the same area where voting took place. Results have been signed by agents. Everybody has gotten into their vehicle and they are escorting the material from just this center to that school. But by the time we get there, things have happened. You ask yourself, what on earth is going on? Let's go to Eldoret. There was some issue as well in Eldoret last night. Lynn Kolonge is our reporter there. Good morning, Lynn. Lynn?
Yes, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today? Baridi Eldoret namna gani?
Sio mbaya sana. At least it's not raining. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when an Eldoret person tells you, Baridi sio mbaya sana, it's not raining. Trust them at your own peril. Lynn, how has it been at the county tallying center?
So there was some commotion last night because the tallying was taking too long, according to the according to the governor. But a few minutes later, at around 3 a.m., the governor-elect was declared, as well as the senator-elect and the women rep. So we have the new governor-elect, who is Jonathan B. Chelilim of UDA.
This is Kotimoja.
And yes.
Okay.
And Governor Mandago is now the senator-elect. And of course, Gladys Sholay remains as takes a second term as the women rep. And the other constituencies have also declared the winners of the MPs, who are all UDA, who belong to the UDA party.
So the entire Wasing issue is UDA from top to bottom?
Yes.
To be expected. How would you say voting was carried out, and then what is the situation? So we basically don't have anything that is being waited for per se that's coming out of this area, do we? So it's
all done.
It's all done. So we're waiting for, at the national level, which is now what everybody else is waiting for, then also coming out of Eldoret, isn't it?
Yes, that is the case right now. And everything is just calm. Businesses are reopening, and people are just on the streets doing their own activities. Most of the elected leaders chose not to do celebrations and ask especially the MPs, they were just taking their certificates and asking their followers to remain calm as they go to Nairobi to wait for the release of the presidential result. Yes.
Okay. What was this commotion again at the tallying center last night?
The ballot boxes had been transported from the constituency tallying center in Tarbo, headed to the county tallying center about 10 kilometers away at the Eldoret National Polytechnic. Now the leaders had gotten to the polytechnic, waiting for the declaring of the governor results and senator results.
Mm-hmm.
But then, after a long time of waiting, they could not see the returning officer. So there was some tension for some moments, and now that's why you saw Governor Mandago storming the tallying center, asking for the returning officer.
Alikuwa wapi?
We don't know where he was, but he came in after a few minutes.
So he came in after everybody has been there waiting. The ballot boxes are there. They are waiting for the returning officer, and he was not in. When he came, did he apologize? Did he explain himself?
So where he had been.
Yes. And after explaining, everything was good, and we could even see people cheering and clapping.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lynn, for this update.
Thank you.
Lynn Kolonge is our reporter in Eldoret. She's just told us that the race is done and dusted in Eldoret. The former governor, Mandago, is the new senator-elect. B. Kotimoja is the new governor-elect. Gladys Bosch-Cholet retains the woman rep seat, and all the other constituencies, it's all UDA from governor to senator to woman rep to the various MPs positions. This is what's happened there. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So we know that there's a lot happening across the various areas. We know we've just been talking about Kamukunji and what's been happening in Kamukunji, in Sarehe, what's happening in Sarehe, in Mathare, what's happening in Sarehe, in Mathare as well, and other parts of the country. We'll now be shifting our focus. It keeps moving. It was initially at the polling station. It moved from polling station, went to constituency tallying center. It has now been moving from constituency to county tallying center. As it shifts, by later this afternoon, all focus will 100% be Bomas at the National Tallying Center, where we expect that Wafula Chebukati has maybe between tomorrow and Sunday to make the final declaration. But as the Forms 34B are being uploaded onto the website, everybody has access to that. You can go and do the tally. So if you had a problem tallying 46,229, surely you can tally 290. Just do that and tell us who the president is by this afternoon.
This
okay?
afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Yes. We don't have to wait for this long. Senior City.
That is absolutely true. You know, the thing is, I actually am delighted as I observe. Yes, there are issues here and there. Maybe a few tempers flaring here and there, but goon squads were not a popular job destination this particular time around. You only hear pockets of situations where thugs have been given full rein. But when it comes to the counting and verification, IEBC, I do not see IEBC getting into a situation where someone takes them to the Supreme Court and they have cases to answer which they don't need to answer.
No.
They are going to be very, very careful. Even as people wait, IBC is not going to rush to announce anything until they're certain of what they're announcing.
Yeah. But we'll see the number of then petitions that are filed at the end of this exercise. You see all these constituency areas where we have all these issues, and the gubernatorial races when you have all these issues. Those ones will end up in court in one way or the other. Now the question will be, are we likely to have more petitions filed this time compared to 2017? And then the success rate of those petitions, is it going to be higher or lower than 2017? That also gives us a good indicator of the management of this election.
It does, but also with time, we've also had a clearer understanding of what these rules are, and when people complain, you have an idea of what it is that they're talking about with regards to the laws that are, should we say, the backbone of our electoral system.
Indeed.
Yes.
In the next hour, let's ask ourselves why Kenyans should prepare for an economic revolution no matter who wins this presidential race. We'll be joined by Wahoro Ndoho, who is the CEO of Sandbox Capital and a former man at the National Treasury. Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. We continue with the comprehensive coverage of the August 9th general election right here from the home of Kivumbi 2022. My name is Dennis Asseto and this is Newswire. Now, IEBC continues to rush against time in verifying Form 34As and 34Bs. These as various candidates in this election continue to get their results. As the process of verifying Form 34As and Form 34Bs continue the Bomas of Kenya, Kenyans are eagerly waiting for the announcement and the conclusion of the exercise and a winner be announced. Thus far, only 6 results have been announced by the IEBC chair, Fola Chebukati. Our reporter David Muthoka now joins us with the latest.
Right here at the Bomas of Kenya, which is the Tallying Nerve Center for the presidential election results, the race for the magic 50% plus 1 vote pitting Deputy President William Ruto of the UDA party, Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga, George Wajakoya of the Roots party, as well as David More Waihiga of the Agano party, is well underway. And just to put into perspective what that 50% plus 1 vote means, in an election where 15 million Kenyans participated in electing a new crop of leaders, 50% plus 1 is equivalent to at least 7.5 million Kenyans voting in favor of their preferred presidential candidate. And so right here at the Bomas of Kenya, the journey to 7.5 million votes is well underway and is on. And as you mentioned, indeed, we have seen results from 6 constituencies announced by the IEBC chairman and the presidential election returning officer Fola Chebukati in the past 12 hours. And these are results actually from 6 constituencies, and that includes Lamu East, Webuye East, Baringo Central, Oljororok, Kathiani, and Kangundo. And just to look at how the 4 presidential candidates have been faring on, we can say that this is a neck-to-neck 2-horse race that pits DP William Ruto and Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga.
We go to Sarai, where there has been an uproar this morning after leaders from both UDA and Azimio stormed the Tallying Center demanding that the results be announced. The leaders, Rachel Shebesh of Azimio and Margaret Wanjiru of UDA, demanded that the returning officer announces the results without further delay, maintaining that there are dirty games being played. Demand the returning officer declined to heed.
Tumesema we are not agreeing opening, so you tell us according to the law tumekataa box ifunguliwe. We'll go to the lawyers. We'll go to the lawyers. So we call our lawyers. Yes. Tufike hapo. Yes. Hebu tuchukue akisema hivyo huyu mama. Just say what she said. Because she's a returning officer who has refused to announce results. As simple as that. We are here. We are bipartisan, and this returning officer has refused to announce the results. She has said we call our lawyers. Is that what you have said? We have an issue about Starehe. We have raised it continuously. Now it has reached the point where the returning officer, and we are here with Bishop Margaret, okay, from Uda, so that we are sure it's not us fighting a war. This is our MP. He has won with 15,000 votes. She has 100% refused. Margaret Wanjiru, myself. They will be found out to be liars. You know, they've been rigging the whole day. Now they are looking for somebody to blame. They should stop their games. Those games are over. I believe also IBC must step up and seal all those loopholes, especially some explanations. There's some stories they are telling us that are not holding any waters.
Of course, we continue to monitor the situation here at the Starehe Constituency Tallying Center.
Thank you, Maria, for that. But now let's talk about some wins. Now, every election is a competition and must have a loser and a winner. Those that have lost have conceded and vowed to fight another day. Those that have won have celebrated in different ways. They know how. Some even just took a break to catch up with the elusive sleep as they anxiously waited for their results at tallying centers. But one Oscar Sudi sent his 2 wives to pick his certificate after he retained the seat after garnering 31,534 votes against his immediate competitor Frank Murgor, who got 11,091 votes. Sudi's 2 wives jointly picked their husband's certificate since he couldn't make at the tallying center as he is in Nairobi following the presidential poll. He thanked the Kapsaret people of giving him another opportunity to serve them. The 2, Lillian and Ann Sudi, later took to the streets to celebrate the win. I'm Dennis Asseto. Good morning.
few minutes after 8 o'clock, and traffic is not one of our issues this morning. Other things might be on the minds of many people, and it's not getting stuck on the streets. That's one of them. Coming into the city looks pretty good. The Southern Bypass, which has not had many visitors in the last 1 week or so, is still remaining just so. We're looking at traffic. No traffic actually coming in from the Thika Superhighway in and out of the CBD. Outer Ring looks really good, as it does coming out of Western. So north, south, east, west. Traffic is not an issue this morning. Hopefully we can rain just so as to get into the weekend. And folks are waiting for something else, and it's not to get where you're going. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there as we try to keep things moving this Friday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power. And Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 7 after 8
This
on the 12th
is the
day of
Situation
August
Room,
2022.
the only way to
the
start
third
your
hour
day.
of Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM, online on YouTube and Facebook, and our website www.spicefm.co.ke and on KTN Home. We want to talk about the economic situation in the country, even as we usher in a new government at the national level and 47 new governments at the county level. But first, before we welcome our guest and introduce him, let's hear the day's proverb. CT?
Well, this is our last proverb from the country of Gabon. To one who does not know, a small garden is a forest.
To one who does not know, a small garden, comma, is a forest.
No, to one who does not know, comma, a small garden is a forest.
It's a little squiggly thing, but it's very important where you put it, isn't it? That comma.
My friend, if you want to understand how punctuations matter, okay, if you're inclined towards infinity and the focus is on the Christian faith, and Jesus said, today I will be with you in paradise. Now, take it. Place the commas where you will and see what it means. Jesus said, today, comma, I will be with you in paradise. Jesus said, I will be with you, comma, today in paradise. Now, you're just keep placing the comma where you like and see what all this thing means.
Things change monumentally. Right. To the fairies and the gnomes, a garden is a, comma, forest.
Yes.
Oh, I saw a goat riding a bicycle.
I saw a goat, comma,
riding a bicycle.
So put the punctuation as you
Okay.
Sure. That one.
Mohorondoho,
Hi.
CEO of Sunbox and former Director General of the Public Debt Management Office at the National Treasury. Welcome again to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante sana.
And the last time you were here in person, I wasn't here in person. But the previous time we spoke, it was on phone.
Correct.
Karibu sana. Sunbox. I don't even know why I'm pronouncing it a Sunbox because
It's a Sunbox.
Because you don't write it as Sunbox.
We got rid of the
just
vowels.
don't like vowels.
That's right.
Sunbox.
It's like a Sunbox capital.
Yeah, Sunbox capital.
That's right.
Okay. We want to talk about the election. So we are seeing what's happening. We now are seeing new governors who are being announced, even those that are retaining their seat, who are going to be less than 50% of the new of the governors. Of the 47 governors, more than 50% are going to be new.
Yes.
And this is something that's going to be big. Yes. So they're coming in, they have their own fresh ideas. Of course, we're going to have a fresh crop of MCAs across all the counties.
Right.
We are going to have more than 50% new members of the National Assembly and Senate. And we are definitely going to have a new president. So new coat and shirt and trousers plus the tie, if you throw it in. Okay?
That's right.
And then we call ourselves Kenya,
Yeah.
and we continue managing the economy that we have inherited. There are issues.
As always.
Eh?
As always.
Okay. First of all, looking at what has been promised by all the candidates, right? Do you feel that any of them actually understood where our economy is at present and where it needs to go?
Short answer is they should. Whether they will, I think if you look at it, in a sense, this is probably the perfect time for all of us as citizens to go back to these manifestos. Because one or the other, we have a blueprint to hold them accountable, to hold their feet to the fire. But to me, it's never a question whether they understood the challenge. Because in a sense, this election has been unique. It's been deep state against deep state. And to that extent, then, it's not that it's for a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of, it's really the political will not to make the hard decisions. Last time we were here, we talked about the first 100 days. And I think we really have something solid to hold these guys' feet to the fire. The question of how, I think, is also a very big debate.
They inherit, what? Let's just call it. It's a 13 trillion shilling economy.
Right.
Don't forget about the debt part. Let's look at the positives.
Can you?
You know, they inherited 13 trillion shilling economy. The regional hub, financial hub, the regional economic hub, the regional peace hub. Okay? Right. So there are some very many positives that they are coming and inheriting.
Yes.
And then there's that little matter of, you know, the global landscape and everything that's happening around the world at present.
Yeah.
And what it's doing to domestic economies.
True.
There's that. So there's the international pressure.
Right.
And then there's the domestic pressure of debt and everybody that we owe money, and they'll be coming and saying, wewe, wajua ule jamaa mwingine yako amenilipa rent ya last month. Umekalia deposit. So how do they manage this as soon as they take up office?
Well, let's see, for both of them, the critical things that come out, that stand out for me, is they're coming with no headroom as far as the budget is concerned. So short of some fairly drastic decisions, and that's why I keep coming back to the 100 days, that's when we'll see whether they're serious about funding their promises. Their promises are very extraordinarily expensive. And there's no way you can finance that with a run-of-the-mill, same type of budget year after year. And so it's for that I say that it's good to hear two radical revolutions that are going to happen. One is going to be around government expenditure and how it goes about financing it. And the other one is that for both manifestos, you see there's a very clear move away from big infrastructure to the mwananchi. Like it or not, on one party, I think, sort of created the momentum and forced the conversation to be back to the Kenyan. And how's the Kenyan going to do well? And in that space, they better get on with delivering this thing, because I don't think Kenyans will take much of a continued status quo conversation, clearly.
Yesterday we had a conversation about the expectation and looking at expectation vis-a-vis the outcomes that we are currently seeing now with the results. And the question is, are we seeing this rabid attention being paid to the results because there's an expectation of a delivery of a promise that was made pre-election?
Right.
Or are we just seeing that it's your person and you're emotionally vested? So that's what you're looking at. So when we're looking at an economy, when we're looking at certain things, your daily bread and butter that needs to be delivered by this would-be leader, it then becomes important in terms of how then this is going to be delivered. With what we are seeing today, with what we are seeing in the anticipation to these results, from your point of view, is it in anticipation of how things will be better economically, hoping that your would-be leader would come into this position?
You know, even beyond our particular commitments to our leaders, there's a new ingredient in this debate, in this election this time. It's actually been a class warfare conversation. We've never had that in this country. At least we've never had it at this intensity. And so the danger is even where you promise, and I think both sides have this, there's an element of overpromising. And so the danger for them lies in, now that the promise has been made and it's in black and white and all manner of colors, delivery of it has to be seen immediately or very soon. The question that no one, I think it's been raised a few times, but we never got a really good answer is, how are you going to fund it? And to me, you're only going to fund it by cutting somewhere in the first instance. And I said, last time we mentioned how we've got 600,000 public servants who basically cost us about $1 trillion to run in a country of 54 million. Huge conversation there. Second is taxation is at such levels that everyone is getting a nosebleed. Another conversation. Thirdly, of course, is the debt question. And to your question, Latif, the fact that even internationally we are a regional international hub also means that the goodwill we'll get from this, if we just continue the way and you don't get into any problems with the announcement of results, might actually be quite cataclysmic. What is a positive? What is a positive? Cataclysmic is negative. I don't know which is the momentous in a positive sense. If because there's so much of the international world is looking to us, and Africa is back into the Cold War scenario where it's more than one center of power in the global arena. And we are really the village beauty in this part of the world in terms of the ones they want to work with, the ones they want to woo. But whoever's coming in has to also manage that, because it can't all be debt, for example. And I can't see who's been more creative in terms of telling us how they'll fund it.
But it's an interesting Cold War when you mention it, because before it was East and West. Now it's a little more complicated.
It is.
Because there's East, yes, unless you're going to say Russia is also East. There's the US definitely.
Yeah.
There's the UK distinctly. There's the EU.
Right.
Yes. So even as people, yes, we call it a Cold War, like case in point, because of this Ukraine war that we have, the war on Ukraine, or should I call it this way, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, what you then find is that the Russians are now in the process of setting up a media hub in Nairobi.
True.
Yes. Now, most people do not, yes, they are setting up a media hub. Now, the closest media hub that we've had, and that did not belong to the Russians or the Americans, is in South Africa. Now, the Chinese set up a media hub here much, much earlier.
True.
Now, it tells you the thinking, but it also tells you how it is they want to be big players in the narrative that determines what it is that people see with regards to the economy, with regards to how people view politics, etc., etc.
One of the things that's really struck me this time around, and I'm a bit of a buff for historical African leaders. You look at the Samora Machels and Sankaras of this world, the sort of world they predicted and the sort of aspirations they had the likes of Russia was very involved in that sort of space. And that, in a sense, is a coming of age where Russia said, look, as Mzungu's fight in Europe, now it's every man for himself. And one thing that Russia has created that's been really fascinating for any economist watching the scene is Russia, I think we probably discussed it last time.
Yes.
Russia has sort of revived the gold standard. You remember when they were boycotted by the West?
Yep.
They basically said we're going to peg the ruble to gold and to our natural resources. Right there is such a critical and incredible new model for currency strength.
It's actually a shift.
It's a complete shift because we basically, the American dollar was basically gold-based.
Yeah.
Then Nixon in 1972 said no more. But you see, what they did, what the clever thing they did is they switched to oil. So that's what's kept it as reserve currency. Russia has now said, no, we'll go back to the gold standard. And by doing that, they're telling the rest of the world, actually, the reserve currency called the US is not the only way forward.
Yeah.
Now, if Africa was to learn from the Russian model, we have a revolution. Because if you're going to back your currency now with the resources under your soil, it's next to impossible to devalue you, which is what Africa has not been able to do.
How would Kenya do that? I mean, it sounds great to hear, but let's look at the Kenyan situation, obviously, which is what we are in right now. And we're saying if we're backing the Kenyan shilling with resources under Kenya's soil, what exactly does that look like?
I'd actually go this way. I'd say Kenya is a regional power, right? Kenya is the driving force behind the East African community. Kenya has recently driven and brought in, primarily, has brought in the richest country on earth called DRC. as a regional currency, was Kenya to shift its valuation to be based on the collective wealth of the East African
community.
East African community. I tell you, this thing is stronger than the US dollar. Another reason, for example, why Kenya is such a powerful currency in this market is that for us it's a domestic currency, but it's also a regional reserve currency.
It is.
Yes. All the middle classes of East Africa, including all the presidents and elites of East Africa, all have a base in Nairobi. And now Nairobi is an international financial center. It's not by accident that the rest of the world are all based in Nairobi, because if you want to meet anyone, any of the presidents, any of the economic advisors, they'll all be in Nairobi. The question is, will Kenya dare to do that? Because you know what happens to those who try to do it. The Muammas of this world.
We're talking about very many radical revolutions. That is one. And there are very many others, even how to manage our debt and the debt levels away. First of all, by the way, Wahoro, do we know what our actual debt is?
Okay. The short answer is yes, but I don't think the longer answer is there are bits of it that are left out. Conservatively, I put it at 10 trillion. 10 trillion.
10 trillion conservatively.
Yes, conservatively. Probably about 12 to 13. And here's why I believe that. The IMF 2 years ago, in its visit to Nairobi, asked us to start counting three other elements of our obligations. That's called financial obligations as part of our debt. But we were given an opportunity, a time frame within which to incorporate them. One of them was, of course, our what you call a contingent liability, our pensions that are unfunded. Second one was our debts with our parastatals, which were basically off balance sheet. And thirdly were any other financial obligations that accrue to the government but are not normally counted. For example, if you sue the government, where do you put that? And most people say, in fact, governments love to be sued, because once you get in the court system, they say, it's out of our hands, just go with the system. In fact, one of the reasons, even commercial it's changing in Kenya, is not that you have a small claims court. I don't know if you follow the story of the small claims court. It's revolutionizing credit in this in market, because civil jail if you don't make payment according to the court. But because of those obligations, if you begin to include those obligations into our financial obligations as a country, then the debt so-called situation looks much worse. But I'd hasten to add that it's not just Kenya. In fact, the entirety of the world, especially the third world, is increasingly being put in a place where it has to count these other things as debt. And that creates the opportunity for us then to be put it cynically, to be managed. And I'll let that sink and go where it will go. But I think that is why it's really critical for us to start thinking of a creative way of saying, look, we've got smarts in this part of the world. We have all it takes to be a first world country as far as financial services are concerned, for example. Why isn't that talent and capability being turned around to saying, okay, let's just look at the entire economic structure of our continent, not just Kenya, and how are we going to redo it?
Well, then why do we have standouts? Why do we have, and I think there's certain elements, I think you alluded to that just a few minutes ago. Why do we have standouts on the same continent? Just the other day we saw, for example, in Rwanda, the private education system is basically being throttled by the public system, because the public system has so well developed that private schools have no business there anymore. Right. We're looking at a public transport system that has revolutionized the way Rwandese can move from point A to point B. Look at what they were able to do with COVID. Look at what they've been able to do with their economy. Look at what they've done with gender parity in government and leadership. Why do we have then standout countries that can do this on the same continent with people of the same stock, more or less? Is it not just then a decision of saying, look, this is the way we are going to go regardless?
I agree with you. And I think in the evolution of any peoples, you must have some standouts because they tell us you can do better. And that's what Rwanda is doing. But the Rwanda model is very, very different from the Kenyan model. And ours is a cacophony of noise. It's always noise. We have lots and lots of noise. Same thing West Africa, lots and lots of noise. But there's progress. Even as there's noise, I would say it's safer because it allows, there's this ability to vent. And you see from where Kenya has come, the ability for us as Kenyans to vent when we need to with no personal cost to ourselves. It's a very important part of why we have a stable democracy. Now, my worry with Rwanda is it has that, but it's bottled. It has to, a controlled economy can only go so far. And I think Ethiopia is a good example of what's happening if you don't allow that. I suppose the point I'd do is, is there a middle path between the two? And to me, the answer is yes. I'm particularly confident about Rwanda is because Rwanda has placed itself in the East African community. So there's some mitigating pressure.
Some checks and balances.
Yes, some check and balance, just in the context of the East African community. And the pressure is both ways. Because even for us, we asked the same question, we could do better. That's right, we could do better. And we see we don't need 100 years to achieve certain levels. But there's a trade-off.
You talk about the cacophony of leaders. So, I mean, because what Kenya now has with the county and devolution is that you have your, what is that you like calling them, CT, demigods, who are basically running a county. They're the county presidents.
That's right.
I mean, akin to the federal system that you have in Nigeria, for example, and the same thing. So everybody has a say in terms of leadership, whereby... again, going back to the Rwanda, you have the president and you have your members of parliament, etc., etc. Now, looking at what we're looking at today with leaders in the next week or so, you will know who those new leaders are. At a time where you have this throttling debt, at a time where your overheads are through the roof, and then when development, unfortunately, is going at a snail's pace, when it should be moving a lot faster than it actually is. Do you then need leaders, whether it is at the county level or even getting more granular and then going up to the presidency? Do you need leaders right now who are going to make a decision about the positive direction in which a county, a ward, a constituency, the country ought to go, and not have this cacophony of voices when you're looking at, debilitating debt, and when you're looking at, slow development?
I tell you, there's a point at the time I would have agreed with you 100%. And because it's a straight path to development when you have a strong leader. The problem with that is that the entirety of that progress is dependent on the personality of that leader. And the sort of structures is created around keeping everyone on the straight and narrow. The more untidy way is more sustainable. Because here's what's happening. Almost every election, you get 50 to 70% of the parliamentary MPs get thrown out. In fact, not MPs, everyone gets thrown out. It has a self-renewing element to it, in that you can be sure this country will always have a fresh batch of people every 5 years to just throw the whole thing up in the air. But you ask yourself, between the two parliaments, has there been movement? And almost inevitably, the answer has been yes. And to me, noisy as a cacophony of voices and arguments may be, this train is still moving. It could be moving much faster, but it's harder for it, for example, to slide back, because every 5 years renewed to build on what was built over the last 5 years.
Are you saying that it is harder to slide back because we've hit rock bottom? So there's hardly any place to slide back towards except now where we are.
Where you come from.
But you see, that's what you're calling rock bottom is a rock bottom that's actually lifting every time.
The bottom is moving.
But the bottom is moving up.
Move.
5 years ago, for example, we didn't have much of this infrastructure, right? For good or ill, we didn't have it. Whoever's coming in comes into a new level of infrastructure. And they've also growing up, seeing that infrastructure being put together. So it's conditioning our leaders at every level that you must at least show cause for why we should elect you again. The other thing that I found really interesting this time out is some people you thought were completely established are thrown out. And very unceremoniously, right? And you ask yourself, that can only happen in a place where, there's a day of reckoning. And that mentality is particularly powerful to ensuring that steady growth is happening.
But even this noise that we speak of, and the issues that we consider rather painful, they are a very, very fundamental part of the growth of our understanding.
True.
If issues go to court, Okia Mtata, who's now senator, elect, and the others, civil society, I doubt if he's going to leave whatever it was he was doing. See, every time these issues come up, much as some of them are fairly repugnant, but it also enhances our knowledge of the law.
True.
And the more cases we hear, the more knowledgeable we are.
True.
You see, like now, in the past, the issues of vote rigging was something that was spoken of in whispers.
Right.
Right now, the IEBC have thrown the gauntlet and said, folks, you don't need to stress. We have a website. You want to know what's happening? Go to the website and see for yourself. We in the media are actually drawing from that particular website. So if you ask a question, the IEBC would ask, have you not looked at our website?
Have you not looked at it?
It's progress.
It is. And to me, I think that's what I was saying, we should learn to celebrate the good things, even as we are anticipating the bad things. Debt, for me, of course, is always a big thing. But what you should ask yourself, and this is my sort of resting pace now, is saying, okay, when I was in school and I was given some money by my parents, and they said, go spend on uniform or getting shoes or something, I could come home with a very bad pair of shoes. But I didn't have evidence that I spent it on shoes. On shoes.
Yes. And the rest of the money
I didn't go for lunch.
Yes.
Now, and I know it's a very minimalist position, but I'm taking the view that I will not see all the change I want in my lifetime. But I've seen sufficient change to be confident that the train is moving in the right direction. And to me, I think it's finding that balance between the two, being radical on one hand in your demands, but also celebrating whatever has been achieved so far.
But something that
Let's take a break. Let's take a break.
Let's go into the break. Yes.
So, Wahoro Ndoho is here and he's talking about radical economic revolution. And in fact, Andrew is asking, so what do you define? How do you define this revolution? Does it involve combating state capture, impunity, entitlement? How far do you extend it? How does it manifest itself? Then how do we actually tell the result? This is as a result of what Wahoro was calling radical economic revolution. Let's discuss that after we take this break. 28 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a Situation Room with Eric Latif Ndu Oko, C.T. Muga, and Wahoro Ndoho. He is the CEO of Sandbox Capital and a former Director General of the Public Debt Management Office at the National Treasury. So this man knows how much we owe. And he knows.
Now this man knows how much we really owe.
What we haven't. So you see, he has told us it's between 10 and 13 trillion. It's a 13 trillion shilling economy. Gosh.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
To be Kenyan is to embrace diversity. The many faces and colors of our nation are what makes Kenya, Kenya.
Election bila noma, penda jirani. This message is brought to you by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, in partnership with the Standard Group.
We know it is cold, but Cold Stone Creamery has hot deals for you. This month, enjoy cups of rich and creamy ice cream, delicious ice cream cakes, and fresh oven-baked cakes at amazing prices. Visit any of our stores in Nairobi or Mombasa and indulge in your favorite treats. Cold Stone Creamery, the ultimate ice cream experience.
Mama Kim, mambo poa. Niuzie toothpaste ile ya Power 3. We nawe ati 3 nini? Toothpaste ya Power 3. Yani Aqua Fresh Gel. Aqua Fresh Gel. Hiyo ni gani tena? Wacha nikwambie.
Aqua Fresh Gel ni dawa ya meno ya kipekee iliyothibitishwa na power ya 3-in-1. Piga mswaki mara 2 kwa siku na siri ya usafi wa mdomo, fresh breath, strong teeth na gums zenye afya bora.
All right, showers still in Nairobi at most places. 21 will be the high and lows of 13. It's mostly cloudy at 15 in Nakuru, highs of 23. 17 will be the high in Nyeri, where it's still raining at 11, and it's partly sunny now in Eldoret at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 13. 22, and the rain still keeps coming down in Mombasa, highs of 27, and 27 will also be the high in a rainy Malindi at 22. It's sunny in Kisumu, highs of 27, and 26 will be the high in a sunny Kakamega as well. It's 22 degrees and sunny in Kampala, highs of 27 and lows of 18, while it's 22 and partly sunny in Dar es Salaam, Amsterdam, we'll see highs of 28 and lows of 22. 14 degrees, slightly warmer in Johannesburg, highs of 22 and lows of 12. And the rain continues in Lagos at 24. 29 will be the high. We'll also see highs of 29 in Kinshasa, where it's mostly sunny at 18.
Chilled Spice.
It has not been our problem this week, and it looks like we'll end the week on a traffic low. Not too much happening in terms of movement. We'll see the most of it in the CBD. Bits and bobs of it on Jogger Road as you get out towards Landis, which is free and clear coming and going. At the Kamkunji roundabout, some traffic is getting to the CBD, but it's breathable. Not too much of an issue. And then voila, there it is on the exits of the Nairobi Expressway coming out of Westlands is where you'll see some action, but nothing too painful. We'll keep an eye on things. Let's see in about half hour where we are, but it looks like it's going to be another good day in terms of traffic. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
(24:09). The conversation continues with Wohorondoho. He is the CEO of Sunbox and former Director General of the Public Debt Management Office. He's telling us why we should just prepare ourselves for an economic revolution, regardless who becomes our next president or governors. What exactly do you mean by this revolution?
What I mean is that we are sitting at the cusp of not just change, but of a point where a citizenry has essentially signaled that it cannot be business as usual. And one of the things that's been very clear from both manifestos, and I encourage everyone at this point, in fact, before the announcement of who's taken the top seat, to go back and look at our two manifestos. Certain things are common between the two, and both of them refocus on the Kenyan citizen. They move away from grandiose ideas about becoming a middle-income country, very abstract notions, to the fact that the average Kenyan is in pain, as in severe pain. But the average Kenyan also is fed up with the status quo continuing. And so one of the things that you will notice from both manifestos is about 5 things that have really stood out for me. One is the whole notion of we must move the financial system in this country to be Wanjiko friendly. That should not be it should not be a peripheral issue. It should not be an NGO type space. It should be the center of government. Secondly, yes, we've done well with infrastructure, but infrastructure has not translated to welfare of our citizens. And so anyone who comes with a big plan for infrastructure is actually Kenya has no patience anymore in that space. You can go and build on the infrastructure, but it cannot be at the center of the plank of economic planning. Third thing is that the whole notion around the efficiency of government, and the efficiency of government is going to be defined is how well it works for Wanjiko, rather than how well it works for the big end of town. And so everything from the Hustler Fund to the even there's a women's fund. Even Azimio has also a similar microfinance, micro funding for small SMEs. Businesses. The whole notion of SMEs is really at the heart of both manifestos, and the efficiency of government will be judged against how well it serves both Wanjiko, her business, her welfare, and her health. And because of that, it means that, for example, you see in the coming administration, a lot of public funds will be set aside to directly facilitate business. Now the question is, how are you going to? Are we positioning ourselves wherever our businesses are to be a partner with government in that space, or to benefit from that? What I particularly like about it also is that it will mean that we move away from a place of looking to NGOs and voluntary, philanthropic endeavors, which has been what most of Africa, I could say the sickness for Africa has been just that. We look to philanthropy when we should be looking to changing the structure of government so that its primary purpose is to facilitate the citizen and not partnership with others. And anyone else who comes into this market should be, okay, right, we'll give you mining, but before we give you the mining license, how are you going to help
the local community?
We must even move away from talking about SMEs. SMEs are the majority employees in this country. It's a big end of town that's a minority. And that's what these manifestos are saying. Yes, the centrality of whatever business you're involved in, government is going to be about that and nothing else. And so what I'm saying is a revolution. It says, if you're smart, over the next 3 to 6 months, you better position yourself to benefit from what the government is about to do. And if you're going to ask one question about accountability, it will be it'll have to be that phrase. What Wanjiku asks is, "What have you done for me lately?" On a daily basis. But for those who do, and we'll go through a list of some of the ones. I've been comparing the two manifestos and saying, okay, bottom line, where should you position yourself? If you're in business, if you're looking to go into business, where should you be positioning yourself?
Yeah, but just give us that answer just now.
No, but can I say something even before he does that? Can you tell us just how different these manifestos are? Because in my mind, they seem to be telling us the same thing, just using different words.
Truth be told, they are very similar, but they're similar in their focus. And I think the conversation has been driven away from grandiose plans to what have you done for Wanjiku lately. And so, to your right, to that extent, they're not very different, but it's a fact that they are converging on this question. And so, the most important, in my view, the most important responsibility for you guys in the media, and I must commend the media with it, they've run, basically, we've taken over this whole election thing. If we can continue the same accountability through the manifesto and asking specific questions around what have you done for Wanjiku lately, I think that's where the rubber meets the road.
Believe me, we the media could have done better.
You could.
If we could get together during the presidential debate, even in this tallying and relaying of results, we could have gotten together. My view.
True, but I'm saying because you've set a trend. My view is that the media should continue it. You should not all sit back and say, okay, we kept us and so honest. We're saying beyond keeping them honest, you're going to keep them honest every day.
Okay. Now you can answer Eric's question.
I'm in business. How do I position myself in the next 3 to 6 months?
Okay, first and foremost, the one sector we must all get to be involved in, however big or small, is agriculture.
Eric, that company of ours, does it do agriculture?
So you sold me your own land.
You don't remember?
And it was a piece of rock.
Chief, it's you who chose it, and you saw the hill, and you said,
"Okay, boys.
Gone.
Okay, boys.
Okay.
You can meet
behind
the classroom after the lesson."
Get into agriculture.
Yes, agriculture value addition. The whole notion around how you're going to.
When people hear agriculture, they just think, buy a piece of land and plant tomatoes.
No.
What do you mean?
I mean everything to do with value addition in that space. And I tell you, for example, if you own an acre and you keep, let's say, goats, okay? What both manifestos basically say, government will be in the business of supporting you or helping you, either with direct credit, better services, or giving you the backup for you to find good credit, good extension services. They are very clear on that. And as a convergence, it's also true that I think for especially more the Kwanza manifesto.
Which was yellow or blue?
The yellow manifesto is a lot more detailed how they want to do it. But it's still the whole notion that, it's not enough. The banking system, as a financial sector, it's currently structured, is completely anti-agriculture. And so the government is going to come in very big to make that a critical support, to give it critical support. So if you're going to be involved in anything to do with logistics, packaging, value addition at whatever level, consolidation, aggregation, you're in the right space. Because I think you'll be able to get both support from the government, but more importantly, both manifestos are very clear in shifting the financial sector towards those areas. But that is always contingent. And there's always a caveat here. It's always contingent on whether the government will get out of borrowing locally, domestically.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll be fairly silent on that. One more than the other. But, the government will have to step back so that the banking sector is more involved in that. So agriculture, to me, if you own anything, let's say from 5 acres to above, the question you should be asking yourself, how do I move from whatever primary production to adding value? And then say, okay, when you go to the government website, what are they offering in that space? And get onto that, bandwagon, so to speak.
The fear that I have when we start to move the conversation in that direction, Moro, is that those who are not in those spaces then might feel an ounce of trepidation when it comes to where they fit into a nation's development and its economy. Because then what happens to them? Where for me, that it doesn't matter the sector where you are in, as an individual in this country, forming communities and forming society, that the role of government is to make it conducive for you to operate and thrive no matter where you are.
And in a perfect world, that's true. What both manifestos are saying is that the government recognizes that. But you also, from what you're also saying, it's true that we know the government is imperfect and it does that. And so the government is saying, we're going to open this, and by the government, I mean both administrations, whichever comes in, is saying we're opening this as a primary priority for us. So for us as citizens is to hold them accountable to that. And one of the ways, for example, they can do is, you mentioned about aggregation of collecting, banding together as citizens. To be that's how you take care of feeling left out. But also say for those of us who are a little more chanukad, we should be in a position of facilitating that government doing that.
How?
For example, I'll give you the example. Like in Sandbox Capital and a couple of others, there are many of us in the market now. We are in the business of facilitating SMEs by giving them, let's say, a one-stop shop for all their services, right? Now we want to add capital to it. So basically, an SME, if you come to me at Sandbox, I want to say, not only will I give you any experts, I'll also give you capital.
Access to capital.
You're facilitating. You're not necessarily in SME yourself. Even as an SME, you can create an SME to support other SMEs. Because I think those of us who are able to do that, and I'm talking about those of us who are, probably urban, well-educated, but have no options. I'm thinking of all our graduates in this country. If you can band together to form chamas and communities and say, how can we be part of this value chain, moving this value chain forward, you may find they are far more effective at reaching the trepidatious, what do you call it, the farmer who's is worried about how they can link in.
Right.
Because these intermediaries become the ones who do the translation for government. And so to me, holding the government accountable is basically saying, what's happening with this group? Waziri, why aren't you facilitating group X, Y, Z directly? Let them tell you how they're doing it. Let them give you a phone number. Let me give you a location for these guys to go to. And then you as media, come back later and interview them and keep them, in a loop in terms of whether it's actually helping them.
Andrew has a burning question, I think, and I think also just going back to one of the things that you said before, in terms of what an economic revolution is, and if you look at economic revolutions that took place in other parts of the world, there was, at least an attempt at cutting out whatever cancer it was that was eating you up in the first place, right? For Kenya, it looks like corruption and impunity is right up there at the front. So if you're going to do anything like what we saw with the Industrial Revolution, whereby it was all right, if we're going to survive this thing, let's start making for ourselves. It doesn't matter where we are, out with the coal, in with the mechanized, and it was deliberate action in terms of what needed to be done. Now, if we're saying one of the things that eats away at economic development in Kenya is corruption and impunity, hadn't it better be that whoever comes in, even if you do have these radical ways of then making, the country move forward, then you must be just as radical in the fight against corruption.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll say my 4 caveats, like if I came up with 5 caveats, one of them, of course, is corruption. But if corruption dies this year, it has to. But corruption is a national security issue, and we've all come to agree that. I think our fault up to this point has been we look to government and say, you eliminate corruption. You need to be accountable. The conversation needs to change to what is a citizen's responsibility in this conversation. And I think last time we mentioned how, we view as citizens demand whenever we interact with the public service, that we as a public will back each other up in pushing back against any sort of demands for enticements and bribes or what have you. It has to be a two-way street. And I think we're at the right place now before the next administration comes in, whereas especially as a media and as a society, we say we ourselves are going to support each other when we interact with the public service, not to facilitate. Because remember, corruption is a two-way street.
It is, but again, it's a debate that has to be ongoing for this very reason. Every time the citizenry have taken that very decision into their hands, we've actually had revolutions, and they've been fairly bloody. You see, I think that the responsibility that the citizenry have is real, and they have not taken it up. But there is this small issue of leadership actually leading by example. I'm putting it as simply as I can, but what I mean is this. If certain basic amenities were taken for granted, or at least essentially taken for granted, these levels of corruption that we speak of, where somebody is willing to take 50 shillings, it would not only be reduced, it would be nearly eliminated, because you would not need it. That if you knew you had an opening, as you speak about the SMEs, where you could go and access money to do what you want to do, you would not need to follow someone to give you 200 shillings. You'd be busy doing the things that you need to do. So much as we take up the responsibility, and where you are right is that if we hold our leaders to account, then we force our legislators to ensure that these things actually happen, so that there's facilitation.
True.
Yes.
True. But you see, as I'm saying, when you talk about leaders only implement through a system, right? We call it government machinery. And so I basically have four caveats. Of course, the first one is a peaceful transfer, acceptance and transfer of power. That's a given. But second is effective accountability. And by effective accountability, I mean, this time around, let's have an effective opposition. Let's not have a situation that opposition is co-opted into government. And in that effective accountability, we must also have institutional rigor in implementation. And by that I mean, these manifestos, you guys should be seeing this song every day. Who should we go to for this part of your manifesto?
You promised this.
You promised this every day. Who's doing it? Give us a name and a phone number. In fact, every time they come, you should ask them for a name, a phone number, and a location. That the people, rather than call the station, can go to that location and do that. So accountability is incredibly important. Another one I've put down as part of this revolution is that the reform of the public service, root and branch, so that it's a responsive public service. Because the public service is this. The public service is the scalpel on a surgeon's hands. The president is the surgeon, the governor is the surgeon, the implements in his hands is the machinery of government. And unless, as a public, we are going to hold that machinery accountable, evidence, part of the reason I was saying to your question, corruption is going to be where the rubber meets the road, where the public meets the public service. The public should have a view that corruption is not just unacceptable. Even if I see it next door, it's unacceptable, because if this guy next door is taking it, all of us on this side of the counter are going to suffer for it, right? And so the reform of the public service is absolutely critical. And I say finally is that you cannot have a revolution if it is not about productivity. The fact that this day you go to a lot of towns, and I love this analogy, because to me it just captures why it's another. We're almost stillborn in some things. Whenever you go on the road and you see a Kanjo grass cutter, slasher, doing this, in 2022, of course you'd ask yourself, this is a picture of Africa. When we see a peasant with a hoe, with this a djembe, that's the picture of Africa's lack of productivity. By this point, I've seen there's a few of those motorized slashers. If you begin to see lawnmowers all over the place, that's productivity. You move from slash to a lawnmower, that's productivity. When you move from a djembe to at least a rotary, that's more than the Chinese have in their millions. We should be producing them here. So the question of revolution has to be around productivity. And I'm saying even for government, if they're not in a business of productivity, then we don't have a game.
What do they do about the debt situation? Because you've said one of the things is they've got to get out of the domestic debt. If they got out of the domestic debt, they are going more into international debt. But to what extent, to what degree?
They've started the process of restructuring the debt. That's the first place you start. Get out of all expensive debt, which is an ongoing thing. And I think we need to commend, give credit where it's due. That journey to moving away from expensive commercial debt is already happening.
Okay.
And they're renegotiating back into low interest debt. There's always, of course, a sting in that tail, is that when you go from commercial debt, and commercial debt is wonderful if you are president, because no one asks you questions.
Right. Accountability, yeah.
But the moment you move to low interest debt, you're going to bilateral and multilateral debt. And in that space, yes, the interest rate is very small. The grace period is 10 years, but it's controlled. So it's always going to be a trade-off.
Is that a bad thing?
Well, not necessarily. I suppose because it's their money, their rules. So for me, I'll come to that part. If it means that the government gets out of borrowing domestically, and private sector gets to be done at is borrowing, even at commercial rates. Access to credit is the biggest thing. It's not even the cost of credit. It's just access. And it's the fact that if you remove government and it's then the banking sector is reoriented towards the private sector, the private sector will grow. And then the issue about taxation becomes important, because we are getting very efficient in the taxation. In fact, better than we expected. But you'd rather be that, because at least it means you're financing our own growth. But you have to get out of domestic borrowing.
I've often wondered, and that wondering and wonderment took new meaning when I looked at what the IEBC have done with these elections. The word transparency comes to mind.
Yeah.
How transparent can the government be, not only about the debt, but what it is that it does with the money that we've borrowed? Because we borrow it for purposes. Because there have always been questions that have been left hanging. It started with Eurobond 1, Eurobond 2. I mean, it's like they just keep stockpiling. And the more questions that are asked, the fewer the responses.
I'm concerned about this, on that question, that it's always about asymmetry of information, right? I come and sit down and I can answer your questions about debt because I've been in the machinery. But the machinery operates, and not just government companies, everyone operates like this, is as long as there's an asymmetry of information between you and me, it's easy for me to have power over you. So there's this element that for this revolution to also succeed, we must also eliminate that asymmetry. And it can only happen by, how many financial experts do you have in this town? You're supposed to be a regional financial center. Do you feel the impact of the financial brains in this town as far as government accountability is concerned? No. The question then should not be government, that the government is holding it back. The question I should ask is, every economist and every financial expert in this town, why aren't they in the game of balancing the asymmetry of information? Because to me, it's not a secret. The fact, for example, the Eurobond is down on an international market, there's nothing secret there. This is the information you can get. And then you have the diaspora. So if you want to know what's happening at the other end of the Eurobond transaction, you have a relative in New York. Yeah. Why can't you call them and tell them to be part of this patriotic duty to just keep everything up in the open? And once you know, publish it. Transparency can't be that you're waiting for someone to disclose. You have to be the ones who also...
We can actually go in there and offer it up.
I'd say, okay, are we wrong? No, say, okay, this is what you published. Are we wrong? And your silence is concerned as far as I'm concerned. So to me, that asymmetry is a critical part of this revolution.
Let's go to the news, and then we continue the bit of conversation and also ask the audience to call in and contribute to this particular conversation. We're talking about radical economic revolution for the next administration. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Raila Odinga or William Ruto as the president, or Mwaure Wahiga or George Ojakoya. You've got to mention all of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Until we get the results. Doesn't matter. Good morning. It's now 9 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Susan Kihika of the United Democratic Alliance is the new Nakuru governor after defeating incumbent Lee Kinyanjui. In Homa Bay County, Gladys Wanga is the new governor after defeating former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero. Wanga was vying on an Orange Democratic Movement party while Kidero was an independent candidate. In Bungoma, Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka is back as governor after defeating incumbent Wycliffe Wangamati. In Western Geshu County, Jonathan B. of the United Democratic Alliance Party won the governor's seat after defeating Zedekiah Bundotich, popularly known as Buzeki, who was vying on an independent ticket. Gladys Sholay was re-elected woman representative in the county after defeating Dorcas Jabet of ODM. In Migori County, Ochilo Ayako floored 8 aspirants to win the governor's seat. In Nyeri County, Stephen Sang has been re-elected governor with 237,045 votes, defeating his closest challenger Cleophas Lagat, who got 54,375. Also re-elected is Kisumu Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, who defeated Jack Ranguma. Now we go back to Starehe, where there has been uproar after leaders from both UDA and Azimio stormed the Starehe Tallying Center demanding that the results be announced. The leaders Rachel Shebesh of Azimio and Margaret Wanjiru of UDA demanded that the returning officer announces the results without further delay, maintaining that there are dirty games being played and demands the returning officer decline to hit to. The returning officer wanted the ballot boxes open so that she can retrieve the physical Form 34As allegedly after the forms disappeared. My colleague George Maringa spoke to Margaret Wanjiru after the meeting they had with IEBC officials and had these to say.
It's been a total waste of time and being taken around circles by the returning officer, because when we called in, I personally called in the county returning officer, who is also the county manager, and I said to him he can't not watch things going wrong in Starehe for 3 days now, and he's just watching and he's not doing it. I said you need to come over, and when he has come over, the same thing we've been saying the whole day, the same thing we've been repeating is what has actually been done, that even the forms that they are not finding, whatever happened to them, cannot make any difference. Even if we were to give maximum 700 per stream, would not make any difference at all. And so we've taken that into consideration, and it is agreed that first and foremost, the presidential votes, the presidential counting must be streamed, must be released, the MP and then the MCA. Then now we'll be left with the governor, senator and woman rep, which we can do a bit later in the day because everybody is fatigued. But even that, there've been massive rigging in this county, and it is wrong, very, very wrong. IBC had started well, and we were hoping that we will finish well.
Now, lawyers representing Kimilili MP-elect Didmas Baraza have filed a petition seeking to compel the court to grant the Embato legislative bail pending his arrest. In a letter dated August 11th, Haminu and Haminu advocates informed the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, ODPP, the Director of Criminal Investigations, DCI, and Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutyambai, of the said development. Baraza is currently being pursued by police for allegedly shooting and killing one Brian Olunga, who was the bodyguard of Democratic Action Party of Kenya candidate in the Kimilili MP race, Brian Haemba. DPP Nurdin Haji has since ordered for Baraza's arrest following the incident with the DCI Thursday afternoon, commanding the legislator to turn himself in to authorities, failure to which he will face dire consequences. Now, the U.S. federal agents were looking for documents relating to nuclear weapons, which they raided former President Donald Trump's home in Florida this week. The U.S. Justice Department asked a judge to make public the warrant that authorized the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago after Trump, a Republican, portrayed it a political retribution. We continue to follow up on matters affecting these elections, the results at Bomas of Kenya, and also the losers and the winners in this process. Newswire and the entire Standard Media Group is the home of Kivumbi 2022. Our cameras, our reporters all over the country following up on the latest development. Be sure to join us in a subsequent news bulletin for the latest. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
All right, we've not had a traffic issue this morning. It looks like it's still flowing freely and smoothly. Not going to be an issue. In the CBD, there's some movement, but look, it's just moving and nothing at a standstill. Nothing is happening in that direction. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, which we're going to watch a little earlier, that is all right. And also coming out of Westlands, that exit on the expressway where there was an issue earlier, that has been sorted out. So coming out of traffic hour in about half hour or so hasn't really been what it would be in a normal situation. All understandable, of course. Let's keep an eye on things and see what happens through the morning. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
7
your
minutes
day.
after 9. Okay, so it's the final hour of the conversation today. It's Friday. It's the 12th day of August 2022. We continue to watch what's happening around the country. So yes, the skirmishes at Starehe, Jamhuri High School, Starehe Constituency Tallying Center continue. We were told earlier what happened is there are allegations of some ferried ballots in unmarked boxes. There's no answers. There's a arrest of presiding officers. There's missing papers. There's just too many things that are happening in Starehe that nobody even knows whether this is Starehe anymore. You know, you don't even.
Kwa ufupi hakuna starehe.
Starehe iko wapi?
Hamna starehe kabisa.
Yeah. And now what we're seeing on KTN News is skirmishes there. The senatorial candidate, Bishop Margaret Wanjiru, the parliamentary candidate for UDA, Simon Bogwa, the Azimio leadership, including Rachel Shebesh and the others, are all there. And they're trying to shout each other into understanding.
Isn't that a sure way to get things understood and clear? So how many people are we looking at? How many registered voters in terms of what this portends for Nairobi? Starehe is a big deal in terms of its numbers, in terms of its strategic position, right? And you can imagine why then everybody would be there. I mean, it's not your little run-of-the-mill constituency, or, you know, it's quite significant in terms of Nairobi affairs, right? Well, there you go. Amos Mwago has been declared winner in Starehe MP race, so Simon Bogwa is out of the running there. So there.
Mwago is the Jubilee guy.
And so, I mean, if any of the skirmishes led to anything, it's led to a winner, and that has been declared just now. So I don't know what the rest of you people are still doing in Starehe at this point. So that's a big question, isn't it?
It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a big one. Nakuru, Susan Keheka, new governor. We already know Keroche, new senator. Sawa basi.
You know her name is actually Tamika Karanja?
No, she changed her name to
Keroche.
Keroche. She had Keroche is her name now. So, Siti, what's the proverb?
The proverb is that, to anyone who does not know, a small garden is a forest. It's
Sounds
not
like
that
you're
whoever
telling
does
us.
not know a small garden. No.
That person is a forest.
Apana. Whoever does not know. Hapo.
A small garden is a forest.
Yes.
Comma.
Yes.
Or semicolon.
Yes.
Sounds like you're alerting us. It's like you're saying, for all ye who don't know, a small garden is a forest.
Yeah.
But that's not what the proverb is saying.
No, that's what you are saying.
To the ignorant,
yes,
they see a small garden
and
they think
it's a forest.
Not even necessarily ignorant. If they've never seen one before.
Yes.
Because if you're born in a concrete jungle in the middle of I don't know.
Then somebody takes you to the
Eastlands.
Amazon for the summer.
And then someone took you to a small garden in Runda. And for the first time in your life, you're actually surrounded by greenery. Right?
I'm thinking
any of each.
True. I'm thinking of a bonsai tree, which by the very nature is miniature. And I'm thinking of many of them together. And I'm thinking of modern environmentalists who have defined the whole idea of a forest. And we think a forest has to be acres and acres and miles of land. And they're telling you it doesn't have to. A forest doesn't have to be.
It can be many miniature trees.
Yes,
formation.
exactly. In a formation, in a certain. It doesn't. Forget even acre. Just talk in terms of.
It can be a small garden.
Brother, this is a forest. This garden thing utawacha. Okay, this is just the proverb.
It sounds like you're the person who the proverb was referring to. To anyone who does not know, a small garden is a forest.
Yani, this lengthy explanation I have given amounts to my not knowing. Surely.
I suppose that's what a proverb is. It just creates debate, unnecessary debate.
Too much debate for nothing. Radical economic revolution. Prepare ourselves for this. This is what Wohoro Ndoho is saying. Let's prepare ourselves for it. Looking at the two leading candidates and their manifesto, each of them has already shifted from what the previous two manifestos have done, or three, okay, including Mwai Kibaki's, which was let's look at infrastructure development, big development that then spurs growth and brings the growth. These manifestos are saying, okay, we are done with those infrastructure, big, giant developments. Now we're going to focus on the individual and trickling it down, bottoming it up.
Well done. Something.
One or the other.
Yes.
But the thing is, it goes down.
Well, actually, what they are saying for both manifestos, and one more than the other, but both of them essentially, they're saying, okay, we've done enough top down.
Top is yes.
So let's get government as a facilitator, right at the grassroots. I'm avoiding
the
particular
bottom.
phrases. Yes.
Okay. But consider, they're not reinventing the wheel, are they? Because the Kibaki administration did precisely this thing that is being presented in all manner of manifestos. Because the moment the so-called Mwananchi, the person who wants to be involved in SME, is able to access the means, that's it.
Absolutely.
And they were able to access it. Remember, we keep talking about banks.
So Kibaki was in the middle somewhere.
No.
Serving the bottom, serving the top.
Actually, it's a question of how was he effective.
Yes.
It's not how loud you are, it's how quietly effective you can be. It's like a master engineer. There's a story of a master engineer who fixed steam engines. And this steam engine once stopped. And they called this old mzee, and he came with a small hammer. You've heard the story. And he went, he listened, he went and he small and
he clinked some place.
One place.
Top.
And the thing started, and he sent a bill of $10,000, I think. And the guy cries, why $10,000? Yeah, you know the story. Says, yes, I charged you $1 for that hammer, but $9,999 for knowing where to hit. And to me, this whole notion around economic revival, revolution, is what Kibaki was that sort of guy.
Yes, he was.
He just had a small hammer, but he knew where to hit.
Right. You know, we talk about infrastructure, and it is argued that when you talk of infrastructure, most serious infrastructure that actually changes or revolutions the country doesn't take place in 10 years. It goes beyond 10, 15 years, 20 years. Because the blueprint has to look into the future. So, that at the same time when they were talking about bringing accessibility and ability to the common man and woman, as we call them, they were also building infrastructure. Okay, the bedrock on which economists argue is where the takeoff stage economically a country needs to position themselves in before they can actually get that done. Now, this government, to their credit, forget the cost, to their credit, carried on with that. But the idea of enabling the Mwananchi, that one, if on a scale of 1 to 10, a half. It's dismal.
Yeah, but as I said, you are living through one type of revolution. I just like to point to something else. Is Kenya, we are who we are today because at independence, we chose the right infrastructure to begin with, which was human resource. And we built human resources to a point where it's coming out of our ears. We don't know anything what to do with it. And so when we switched 20 years ago to physical infrastructure, that's more of a catch-up. We're catching up with where we should have been with the Malaysias of this world. In fact, where we are now is where Malaysia was 20, 30 years ago. So that process will continue, but at a lower speed. But now what's these manifestos they are focusing on is saying we've had the human resource, we've done sufficient with the physical infrastructure. Now how do we make sure that this put together benefits the grassroots? If we can't do that, then the first two will be to naught. And therefore the question one, what I'm saying is going to be an economic revolution in that. For once, both sides are agreed that the focus of government and government revenue, government largesse and government expenditure will be at the bottom. All I'm saying here is that for it to be a revolution is you out there listening should be positioning yourself to ask yourself how exactly, even these sectors, agriculture, manufacturing, tourism and digital economy, retail financial services, construction, healthcare, education, and generally in the SME, especially the bottom end of the SME, which what they call the micro SMEs, mama bogas and bodas. How are you preparing yourself to get involved in that, or to facilitate others who would have no idea and who would not even want to bother reading manifestos? For those of us who are so-called educated class, how are you positioning yourselves now to facilitate
to be the knowledge
government?
hub, for example.
Knowledge hub and the handholders for
everybody else.
Everyone else.
Sounds like everybody's already there, or it's just that they're not maybe well facilitated, so they're not.
That's right. The bridging is poor.
Faster, right?
The bridging is poor.
But there are very many people who are already in the agriculture sector, whatever level, whether it's production or value addition. There are many who are manufacturing at whatever stage they are in manufacturing. In the digital economy, there are very many who are in the digital economy, just at different stages. It sounds to me like if indeed these governments come into office and they implement what they want to implement, they'll find people who are already there.
True.
And then the people will also give them direction of this is actually what we've been doing and this is where we'd like to go. So the government then just comes and listens and facilitates and says, all right, so you have been in the digital economy and this is what you've been doing. Proceed. Go ahead and do what you need to do. What are the bottlenecks? Is it access to capital? Is it access to greater information? Is it access to services, for example, the kind of services that Sandbox offers? So here is Sandbox. You now get to know about Sandbox, link them up.
That's right.
Go on.
Something like that. In fact, to me, I was saying that in an economy like this, there are a lot of people doing that quietly anyway. The question is, and maybe this is where the media comes in, is to make sure that the hard face of government implementation is well known to us, the media, and every Kenyan. But also say there's a business opportunity between what the government intends to do and what the government actually does. And to me, the revolution will come in how you position yourself in between that space. I'll give you a quick example. A lot of us keep goods, lots and lots of goods. There's this thing about the leather industry that's big now. Everyone talks about it, but no one seems to be doing anything.
Yeah.
This time round, if you look at the manifestos, they're very clear they're going to put something.
They're actually mentioning leather directly.
Directly.
Yep.
So I'd ask yourself, if you are in a livestock
goat rearing business,
where the majority of meat comes from, are you positioning yourself to get into collecting all that all those hides and skins? But not only that, do you know who you need to talk to starting next week in government?
Yeah.
Has the government given us a number? Do we as a media, are we careful to make sure the government gives a name, place and phone number? So if you have got good skin somewhere, I can call these guys. Because in some ways, we guarantee the implementation of the manifesto by actually believing it and calling government and saying, niko na ngozi 5,000, nazipeleka wapi?
We all go to this Mavoko place, which one of the big four projects was a tannery.
Yes.
In Athi River. So you just go there. Iko wapi ile tannery? Unajua ilikuwa flooded.
And then that's the end of
and then we start that conversation from that point. Okay, we need this thing working. If it's not working here, then tell us where.
Government implementation should be about citizens' activism. Yeah.
Demanding to
it
know.
It cannot be that you're waiting for to be told this day. Because if you ask the Mheshimiwa 3-4 times and he can't answer, then even he knows he's not going to last very long, and that's it.
You know the thing about this development, you asked a critical question in comparing us to what is referred to as the Asian tigers. I don't know. It's odd about how countries develop and evolve. And I would argue that, yes, maybe the path we took, we could look back, because everyone is smart with hindsight. You look back and say, we would have done this. But if I look at a certain net export called a diaspora that we have in this country, okay, it means we had enough human capital. Some people don't like the term human capital, but it boils down to that, really. Your capacity to produce is capital, and if you're the one in whom it is nestled, you are precisely that. So I'm saying it means that the path we followed has extremely many benefits.
True.
But the government support that you speak of, okay, the enabling, that is partly the problem, because that same absence of it or lack of it or suppression of it is probably what led to many people leaving the country in the first place.
True. So it's become a perverse incentive. Our failure has become a perverse incentive for Africa, and that's because you can't employ them. They've gone overseas, but by going overseas, the remittances have benefited us. So you could, by circular argument, you could say we should chase as many of our professionals as possible
to go,
which is crazy. Because again,
it is really crazy.
It's crazy, but that's what the logic of Africa right now. Because we can't absorb them. So I ask myself, for example, if you have a first-class honors in agriculture in Kenya, how many of you have a definable career in this country?
A career path with that one?
Very few. But now, if these two manifestos say that agriculture is a core of this, I'd like to know where you guys are.
Yeah.
I want to put you. I want to link you up with the minister for health, for agriculture, and I won't wait for the minister to invite me. I say, Mheshimiwa, here are 20,000 graduates with even a PhD in agriculture. Use them.
But the way in which we hope things would move is that conversation then wouldn't even need to be had. You wouldn't have to go to her and say, I have 20,000. It would be clear that the environment had already developed to such a level that when you have this number of graduates, they automatically fit. In fact, they would be begging them to come. You see? And so my question is that do you think that there is the potential to have just that? That you don't have to have somebody then being because what we are seeing right now on the continent today is a repetition of the brain drain that happened in the late 80s and early 90s around the continent. That is happening today. It's not because it's not because necessarily. I'm going to say, sometimes you say because you don't have something doesn't mean you don't like it, right? You're not going there only because the situation there is good. You're also going because the situation where you are does not offer you an alternative, right? But can we get there? What is that thing that is stopping? What is that thing that is stopping economies from saying we can produce, we can hold our own, we can hire our own, we can create environments through where our own are the experts?
And that's been what I call the journey of maturing of a country and a democracy. And we are, I strongly feel we are there now in Kenya. In that a lot of the questions, in fact, if you look at our immigration around work permits, has completely changed in the last 5 years. It's harder and harder for an expatriate to get work in Kenya because one of the first questions they ask is there no Kenyan who can do that job?
Who can fit the bill, yeah.
Because this exact same question is asked overseas.
Yep.
So it's become an international market for labor, right? Which is the other thing that works against Africa to that extent. But with that, given that we've reached that point now, we have to think of mechanisms where we are not a passive population waiting for manna from on high. And to me, the revolution is that, okay, the signals be very powerfully sent to us that we are ready. Okay, guys, put on your shoes and get out there and say, I have this degree. Yes, not to wait for the government to say, come looking for you. Let's shout from the rooftops that we are here, we are ready. And then if it's a lie that this manifesto has been printed, then very early in this process we should know. Yeah, because we have a recall. And I know a few of us have rarely used it. We mentioned it last time. Maybe it's about time we began using the recall vote as an accountability. Correct. Yeah.
I mean, you refer to these manifestos quite often since this conversation began. So do I assume that for you there's a believability factor in them for you, that it doesn't matter who will come in, that they're actually going to do what they've said they will do?
There's a certain element of panic in our leadership this time round. And the fact that it has forced them to reorient their focus from what is to any leader. Infrastructure is very sexy because, it's big, it's a monument. 10, 20 years after you've gone, you can still see the expressway. You say, I did it, But clearly the amount of the restiveness in the population is such that it has forced this conversation to go towards that. So as far as believability, it's believable because the proletariat is unhappy. And not just unhappy, they're hopping mad. And the question is then, how do you leverage that to make sure that they are also positioned to take advantage of this it's not enough to give for promises. We must hold them.
If you look at the European model of the process that we're now discussing, what eventually brought about this continued stability that we see is what we call the growth of the so-called middle class.
True.
Okay? So that there were people whose backgrounds were the proletariat, but you could see the process that they went through, and usually it was through education.
Education, that's right.
And Kenya has mirrored that in many ways. Because at the time of independence, literally our entire population were peasants.
Unfortunately, there are more peasants than there are at independence.
Now,
because you're 50 million.
You've actually understood my point exactly. And I'm saying education was what now could move you from that peasantry and take you on to the next level. And we saw it doing so.
True.
Because the rewards were direct.
True.
When I graduated...
When we graduated.
Yes.
We were
there were jobs. I mean, I knew where I was going to work. I knew exactly what. I mean, I had to go to the library to find out where it was actually in Kenya. But I had a letter telling me I had a job. Different time. But even when we talk of agriculture, remember, there are many people who can trace their wealth to basic agriculture. What they did, whether they grew maize or barley. Something then happened. The same language of revolution came in the era of the telcos. Okay? Now, that changed everything. Because overnight now, the monies that were being made in agriculture seemed like...
nothing.
Yes, exactly. And then the communication revolution, as I call it, came in. Now, everything now really, really, really changed. And yet, the function and the importance of agriculture seemed to have taken a back seat, and it shouldn't have. It should just have moved along and graduated with everything else that was happening.
True. If you move from a population of 10 million, we're adding 10 million people to our population every decade. I ask you, why is an agriculture the most lucrative business in this town?
Because
demand is growing. Demand is growing. So clearly there's a dislocation that's happened in that space. And I'm saying the next lot to take advantage of that. It's not going to be an easy road. I don't expect that. But if you're being told you're going to get at least access to credit, I would say start where you are. Don't go looking for big things out there. If you've got 3 acres, start there. Wherever you are, start and ask yourself, how can I get into this market? And for most of us, it's not even starting, saying, start a second hustle. Yeah. Most of us have some land somewhere. Keep goods. I don't know. Do something with the little asset you have, but start there, and let's hold the authorities' feet to the fire as far as we are concerned where we are. And that would be easier for others to follow.
So I've got this, I've got the goats, I need access to the market, I need better access to market for everything from this animal. Not that I'm going to slaughter this animal and then throw away the horns and throw away the hides and skin. I don't know where they're going. I don't know where I'm throwing away the matumbo. So everything from this animal should translate to money. And now that is where we start demanding of the government. Start demanding of the government.
I'll give you an example that is really close to heart about agriculture, about productivity in agriculture. The cost of food is the single biggest expenditure
item.
for the poor, for the poorest. It takes too big a percentage of their wealth. If you lower the cost of food alone, you'd lift millions out of poverty. So then I ask you, is why is the cost of food so high? So we come back to the issue of cartels before. So I was talking about the restructure of government. Among the biggest, most telling revolutions that need to happen for this economic revolution to actually occur is the death of cartels. And those ones cannot happen. In fact, to me, it's one of the key accountability areas for the leadership. Is around where we as a public get to point individuals, the whole whistleblower movement. Again, it's all about accountability. Because if you break the cartel at that level, then the cost of food will fall down because it creates more opportunity for the grassroots. But again, it has to be the citizen that drives that. It cannot be just left to government. Even though both manifestos are pretty clear that they are going to go after the cartels. Yeah.
What I'm really curious, though, is that all these manifestos, as much as they're talking about agriculture being a centerpiece of their manifestos, they don't talk much about devolution and agriculture. It's like they don't seem to acknowledge that devolution will be the driver of agriculture, that the Constitution has passed on that function to devolution.
They do, both of them do mention the devolution, but you're right that actually the implementation coalface is actually the county government. And the extent, in fact, one of my concerns is in the new realignment, political realignment, we are likely to actually undermine devolution if, for example, it's under monolithic national parties. For example, if you're a governor, it's actually a two-edged sword. On one hand, it will increase accountability for the governor. Because if you're a UDA governor, you can get a call from State House saying, hello, what are you doing with the budget?
This is what our manifesto
But at the same time, also, it means that you're also not as free as the intent of devolution, whereas, your governor is local and answers directly to the grassroots, not to
not upwards.
Someone in State House.
But the way we seem to have done that and the way we seem to have ensured control is in how we dole out the money that is supposed to go out to the counties. Yes, because, we've had governors sitting in the very seat you're sitting, and the one complaint is the money doesn't come when it's supposed to come, and that doesn't come in the amount that is supposed to come. You who has worked in that delightful ministry, how do you get to a point where we understand that amounts that are owed or should go to counties go? So it isn't whether you, who is in charge of that ministry, woke up badly or you hit your toe on some... It simply goes so that the issue about the national government being the stumbling block is removed. So you then focus on the country and say, excuse me, there really is no excuse. By the same token, how then do you ensure that when you have a budgeted amount for, say, that the judiciary, that it isn't a teeth-pulling exercise where somebody has to go and sit and smile and someone says, hey, habari ya leo, watoto hawajambo. No, you simply get your money. Yes.
Yes, and delivered in that militant tone.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fully appreciated. The truth of the matter is this: even government has something called cash flow management.
Yes.
Right.
Of course they do.
So among the unhappy consequences of having a debt that you're paying at least almost $1 trillion in interest on, is that in the order of priorities, you pay your debts first, and what's left over then gets given. The structural change in that space needs to be that, disbursements to allocation to counties should be given a priority even over the debt.
Fast charge.
I'm not so sure that we can go there, but it's part of the reason. One of the consequences of stepping back from and reforming our debt situation is precisely so that we are able to give that money to the counties.
Forgive me. I like the way you're reasoning, and just for academic purposes, it makes perfect sense.
But it's not on the ground.
No, I am thinking what you've just described is a perfect scenario of how government controls everybody. Because they are the ones who have the money, isn't it? And we know where the money is. In that place,
you know how much they have
at any given time. The rest of us can only guess. and so whatever they tell us, we don't really have much of a choice. We get budgetary constraints,
cash
flow issues.
I disagree with that to this text. And I asked this question earlier. I said, Nairobi, as a international financial center, has how many financial experts?
Many.
I wouldn't know
Maybe
the
a
number,
million.
but there are many.
No, and I talked about asymmetry of information. I'm pushing that back to say it's true that the government has all of that, but none of government's revenue collection is secret. So I'm saying our pushback has to be also as part of this, as part of the answer to this thing. So let's not all just leave it to the government.
Social accountability.
Social accountability. We have to eliminate asymmetry, and one way we do that is I challenge the financial experts in this town to be part of the answer of this solution.
So are you saying that with that collective responsibility and pushing for certain things, then this whole idea of sirikali then disappears? Because we've had people who work in the category of social accountability sitting here and telling us a debt register in 2022, for example, we only have 2018 information, and even that
This man did not release that data when he was
ambiguous
boss of
in
that
nature.
office.
And then here you are telling us that it's very possible if a bunch of people in the numbers sector come together and push, and we push them, and then government will be able to tell us exactly what's going on.
We don't even have to push. All I'm saying is this. Let's stop being reactive and say we have the tools right here now. The debt register is a good example. True, the debt register has been supposed to be free for a long time. There are certain institutions that are supposed to be independent. In fact, our current constitution envisaged a semi-autonomous public debt management. Maybe it should become completely autonomous. But it's not the only one. Another question is, what should be the role of Treasury in this new dispensation? Is an element where a part of Treasury needs to be autonomous? Probably yes, but politically can that be sustained? No. So then you have to take the view. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's part of the debate. To me, I'm saying they ought to be, but they almost certainly will not be because they are too central to the executive. The question that my pushback is saying is, why aren't we in a conversation of saying, rather than waiting tuomba serikali tunaomba serikali, why don't we, as a majority, as the citizens, create a structure where we are able to monitor it ourselves and not have to wait? Because you know how we raise our money, we know how we spend our money. The question is that we don't all need to know, but there should be enough of us who know and publish it, so there's less this asymmetry. Because the fact remains that because we think it's too high level, we can't, accountability goes out the window because you're not able to. If someone has to ask Buhoro today, what should we do about debt here and there? I can tell you there may be 10, 20,000 people in this town who could give you not just facts and figures, but details. And they're all in our consulting firms in this town. That part of citizens' participation is now critical. And the signal from these elections is the government is saying we are open and ready to do it. Hold them accountable to that. Okay. Don't wait for them to invite you. Invite yourself.
Let's take a break. 22 to 10. Take a look at weather and traffic. So there's Amos Mwago has been declared the MP-elect for Starehe constituency after all that up and down. We'll see whether we'll be able to speak to the MP-elect or some of the people who are there making all the noise and punching one another just to understand, okay, umevunjwa meno? Umevunjwa ngapi?
Wow.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
You've had the luxury of living for 50 years and you cannot still explain yourself. Surely. Oh my God.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
It's about shipping out.
You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man?
Emmanuel Talamu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the ship or ship goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
A bit of a shower in certain parts of Nairobi. We'll see highs of 21 and lows of 14. It's sunny at 16 in Nakuru now, highs of 23 and lows of 14. And it's raining as well at 12 in Nyeri, highs of 17. Partly sunny conditions in Eldoret at 18, highs of 22 and lows of 13. The rain is still coming down in Mombasa at 24, highs of 27 and lows of 22. Same thing in Malindi at 25 with highs of 27 and lows of 24. At 24, it is sunny now in Kisumu, highs of 27. Sunny conditions as well in Kakamega. We'll go to highs of 26 and lows of 17. It's partly sunny in Kampala at 22, highs of 27 and lows of 18, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 25. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 22. It's sunny at 14 in Johannesburg, highs of 22, and Lagos is raining at 23, with going to highs of 29. 29 will also be the high in a mostly sunny Kinshasa at 18. Looking out into Friday evening in Beijing, it's 31 degrees and sunny, going to highs of 32. It'll be going really hot in Paris at 34, and we'll see highs of 32 in London. 25 in New York. Still Thursday night coming into Friday. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 19.
Spice up your life.
It should be all right. Uhuru Highway, where you'll see a trickle of traffic as you're getting towards the Haile Selassie roundabout. And then a little bit here and there on Jogo Road, outbound on Jogo Road, interestingly enough. Inbound just around the Makadara train station, but nothing too crazy. I wonder how the trains have been faring now that they've not been much in terms of human traffic, but okay. Coming off, I think, a superhighway, just a little bit there at the Pangani underpass, the first of its kind that we've seen this week as you're getting into the city, but it's nothing too painful, and a little bit here and there coming out of Westlands on Waiaki Way. Other than that, you should be all right. Through Friday, we shouldn't see much more of this, but you can talk to us through the day, however. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Have never sounded so good.
My favorite songs of the 1980s.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay. Some feedback from Twitter MCA says enhanced devolution to the Mashinani, that's wards, return elected town or ward councils, 5 to 7 members with local mayors with executive powers to provide local services, have rural councils funded by CDF money, better option to ward development fund run by MCA. All these things are basically just improving governance at the local level, and also that improves the accountability that we are demanding. So there's citizen accountability, and then there's accountability by the various institutions that are created to provide that accountability. One of them being Parliament, as an oversight, with its oversight role of the executive. But before we continue the conversation, let's hear what's been happening in Starehe. Rachel Shebesh is with us on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Are you still at Jamhuri High School?
We have just been given a certificate. We have just left. We have left people celebrating, but I've just left.
Okay.
We've just been given, in about half an hour ago.
What was this standoff, Mheshimiwa?
Oh my God, it's such a long story. I mean, if you can find ballot papers that are stamped, which are all supposed to be locked in a ballot box, walking around with presiding officers for 2 days, 3 days in bags, and you are the one who has to raise it and take them to Central. And yet it is known by the IBC themselves, the returning officer is involved, the DRO, the security system there. We have told them there's something going on here. The returning officer has totally refused to announce our results. And our candidate has won with 15,000 votes. I have never seen such madness in my life.
So how did this happen, Mheshimiwa? So voting happens in a polling station, counting happens in a polling station.
Exactly.
The results are witnessed by all agents in a polling station. A form is filled.
The form is filled. Then any other material is put in a ballot box and sealed.
Mm-hmm.
Then the PRO comes with comes with a copy of the results to this tallying center, which was Jamhuri High School for Starehe.
Mm-hmm.
So any ballot paper, whether spoiled, unused, whatever the reason, unused ballot books, spoiled, are supposed to be in a ballot box.
In the sealed ballot box.
Sealed ballot box.
Yes, that is how they finish the tallying. That's how presiding officers finish.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time the boxes are being brought, there is no material except this Form 30, I don't know what it is called, that has the results, isn't it?
For the MP, 35A.
From the MP, yeah, from 35A for the MP.
Mm.
And of course for presidential and everybody else.
Uh-huh.
So when we came, of course our agents are ready. The lady refused to count. In fact, the first night when all PROs were arriving in other stations by 3, including Starehe, at 2 in the night when I went there to ask what's going on, is when presiding officers started being received. 2:30 in the night. Even them, they were tired, they were cold, they were frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
So in that process, presiding officers, about 13, say they don't have their material, they don't have their results. So they need the ballot box opened to get the material inside until they put it inside. So we ask them a simple question. When you are trained, you are told, put what you are putting in and carry the one you are coming to the tallying center. Since we have 200 and something PROs, how is it that 13 only did not get these instructions? So this returning officer lady is insisting we open the ballot box. Now you know the process of opening a ballot box is very, very complicated. Because you have to call all agents to open a ballot box, even one, from MCA agents to presidential. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because you open a ballot box.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what she has been playing with, and we have been asking her. So in the end, as we were fighting all these things, we asked them, and what are in these bags? So our boy said, open these bags. So I told the police, can you open for us this
What
bag?
kind of bags? Handbags?
These ones that, no, you know, they have all these rucksacks. All these officers, all these PROs, they have similar rucksacks they have been given. Then even one was wrapped in a kikoi, about 20,000. You know, it's like a joke. I'm not even understanding why people are even talking about IBC. I can't believe they were in a kikoi. They were taken to Central. 2 hours later, we found another batch, the ones that you are seeing in social media. So we asked honestly, what are we even doing? So eventually, because of going to the police and everything, we went back. She still insisted on opening the ballot box. I said, okay, if that's the process, call somebody more senior than you, because we are not trusting you, and thus we'll have our agents here. When the senior person came, what we've been telling this woman throughout, these papers you're not finding will not change the tally, is what the county returning officer has come to announce. But I also believe that is because of the pressure and the publicity and the media coverage. Otherwise, I don't think they were going to shift.
You know, I'm listening to what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are you saying that in these rucksacks, these backpacks, and the documents covered in kikois, that these were ballot papers?
Ballot paper stamped. A ballot paper
Marked
that is stamped
or
means
unmarked?
it's being given some marked, some unmarked. Ballot paper stamped means it is being given to a voter.
Yep.
Because it's cut, it's stamped, it's given to you. For senator, for governor, for MP, for MCA, for president also, for president. Yeah. So let me tell you what their plan was, which was too long and winded. They wanted us to open these ballot boxes that these PROs can have no papers, so that the staff. So they had the papers ready to start.
That it would have been you who had agreed to have these boxes opened, and it was in the plain view of everybody. Yes, that is what they were forcing us, because we were so desperate to be. They said, okay, just let us open. The tallying paper is inside.
the one that they're supposed to carry by law. Please just let us open. They made a mistake. You know, I asked her, 13 of your people made a mistake. How foolish do you think we look? 13 people can make a mistake. Which training was they? Then I even told those PROs, you people did not hear you take personal responsibility. Then they started panicking. By the way, they are so compromised. If those people's phones are checked, the kind of, and I'm telling you, the kind of communication, you know, we also know who was paying them. The kind of communication you will see between our competitors, I really do not know. I really don't know.
So during this entire standoff, what was the stand by your competitors? Were they also supporting the arrow in the call to reopen the ballot boxes?
Of course, 100%.
And what was their
So the ones
argument?
who are telling Adul, they are the ones who are saying don't, because they want to stuff the box, because Simon Bogwa wants to win. This is a Simon Bogwa thing. It's not that it's something we don't know. Simon Bogwa was there. He comes there. Outside there, he talks to them. You find a returning officer. She would disappear for an hour or two. Tell me where you can go to a polling station now, and there is no tallying going on for an hour or two. She somewhere disappeared in the backyard.
Now that Amos Mwago has been declared winner, what was the margin?
Yes.
The final tally.
15,000. 15,000. No, the gap was 15,000. I don't even know what the tally was. You know, we've been just saying
the
our
gap
gap is
between
15,000.
him and the next and the
And
number
Simon
two.
Bogwa. Yeah.
And from what you
15,000.
said, you were looking at some 20,000 ballot papers that they were
Thrown
carrying
around, walking around carelessly. These ballot papers that are costing a year each, I don't know how much. These ones which are coming from Greece are like toilet paper. And I am telling you, instead of being in a ballot box, even there is one who had no shame. The one who is in the video you will see Ngil is talking to. That man says that his child was sick. So he left to another PRO to hold for him. So this other PRO is saying, me, I shouldn't be in trouble because I was only holding for him. I said, you are holding ballot papers which are stamped. And that PRO who he was holding for him is a teacher from that school. So they slept in that school. I don't know whether in his house, I don't know where. You know, it is so basic and so, it sounds silly with how basic it sounds, but it's ridiculous.
So Mheshimiwa Shebesh, now that you say this is really, really casting a very bad shadow on the constituency itself and this election for MP, do you think it also affects the other elections, the presidential election, MCA, senator, governor?
We found presidential ballot papers, the same number of almost 2 booklets of presidential. We found of MCA, we found of governor, we found of senator and the MP. Let me ask you.
And how many ballot papers are there in a booklet?
Why do I think that they're like 3? I don't know. It's fat. You didn't see that thing?
No, I saw them when I went to vote. There were many. I'm just wondering how many there are. So if there are several
like 10,
booklets, then...
or I don't know. Yeah, they are By the way, in total, we have about 20,000 ballot papers that we took to Central.
Okay.
Then you see even this thing that when you know what remains from a ballot book, the counterfoils.
Yes.
Also, which are supposed to be there in a sealed. They are also somehow, I don't know, working with them. Then they have pictures of voters. I don't know whether it's voter registers or it's with pictures of people and their phone numbers. Then, by the way, there was a book, an exercise book, where they've written their strategy of stealing. That is how stupid they were. At Itoa, who you have a 50, at class 8. You know, me, I'm thinking it's a movie, by the way.
Oh, come on, Rachel. These are the things that you have seen.
You're part of the leaders of, Team Nairobi.
I could not believe how brazen this thing is. I mean, I have seen elections, but I have never seen such an attempt in my life.
Do you think...
But I hear the kind of money that walked around that session
is a lot.
Is a lot.
Rachel, do you think this was replicated in other constituencies in Nairobi? As part of the team of Team Nairobi, what do you think this means to Nairobi?
We even found Kasarani ballot papers. Kasarani, they have complained. Mathare, Mheshimiwa Oloch just came to join us there. He has just been given certificate now. He told us even in Mathare, 2 people have been arrested over IBC. Yes. So it is a thing that is all over. So imagine there is no credibility on that one. Even them, they don't know what to tell us. They don't know what to reply.
So in the seats that you win and the seats that you lose, there is questions of credibility of the entire results.
How we have won, whether you win or lose, you will always ask yourself a question. They have unfortunately made even the seats of MCAs raise doubts. Yes, because everybody now is wondering, okay, then did I really lose?
Yeah.
So they opened up a Pandora's box for people to start questioning things, taking legal whatever, just because of refusing to announce a winner who has got a gap of 15,000.
So what next will you do as Team Nairobi?
As first of all, we want to just have Baba declared, then we will deal. But this returning officer, me, I've even said it on the media, personally, Shebesh. Imagine she has to be prosecuted.
You can imagine. And what if Baba is not declared?
Baba will be declared. What do you mean Baba is not declared?
Okay.
There's always a possibility.
I'm saying we are waiting for Baba to be declared, and then we will deal with this IBC. Because we raised IBC issues, people thought we were being petty. From the moment they started messing, Kenya started saying we are real. From the time, I don't know, governors' papers have come confused. What has happened? People started saying we are saying a point. Now, after what I've seen today, and the returning officers who are so compromised, because when that list of returning officers was published, as Azimio, we raised issues about those returning officers who had records everybody knows.
Mheshimiwa, what do I hear you to be saying, that if what we are seeing in Nairobi is what it is, then it could be that in other parts of the country, similar things could have happened?
I promise you, people have heard my story today. You just wait and hear how many stories are going to come up. People have just been suffering silently. Me, I'm just a person who has never suffered silently. I was not brought up that way. People have been suffering silently. Now they are calling me. I'm asking them, but why were you not calling me? Why were you not calling us? Even our own candidates in Nairobi here, they have been fighting their wars, thinking that they are fighting their wars because they are thinking, oh, they are scared. I said, no. I'm telling you, there is no way this is not a replica of what is happening. The network of it, the way it is planned, because unfortunately even the security people were compromised. In fact, we had to have those police officers the first day changed. We were brought new ones because I said we can't deal with these guys. They can't be. We are being played here, and they are not our security. We had to ask for them to be changed.
Rachel Shebesh, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
The stage is being set, isn't it?
Completely. Come Monday.
Because, I asked that question.
Attention shifts.
I'm looking at the issues that we've been hearing in Kirinyaga.
Yep.
Okay.
We're hearing the same in Laikipia. I was speaking to Governor
the back and forth. And as she says, we are certain to hear it from other parts of the country also.
Yeah.
And the thing about this conversation that I'm finding interesting is they're not talking about what they allege. They're telling you, we found this and we've taken it to the police station. We've done this and we've done this. Now, I'd like to really wonder, is there another explanation for it? And I can't find another except the one that I'm hearing. I mean, I'm really trying to figure what else could we be seeing here. And
when we were sitting there saying, oh, this election, IBC,
yes, but it was peaceful until now.
It's been carried out so well.
Anyway,
until
let's go to the weekend and wait for Wafula Chebukati to declare the winner. Wahoro, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes.
See, you'll be coming regularly. Sure. Let's start this thing that you're saying. All of us have a duty. We accept. We accept the challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
so we'll be calling you here regularly, so we can do that job of.
And I think it's part of that. I'm more than happy to marshal other people who can come and give facts and figures, and at least we create what I call a citizen surveillance capability with all the media, the whole media, all of you through the Media Council.
Yep.
You guys have done such a great job with this election. It'd be a shame for you to then, pick up the ball and go back home.
Go back to business.
The game has only just started. Be in the game for the next 5 years.
Thank you. Wahoro is the CEO of Sunbox. He's been here with us since 8 o'clock. Have a lovely weekend, folks. We'll be back next week from Monday. It's now 10 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.